When we first started gathering, that's why like every single gathering was getting bigger and bigger. I
Hmm.
mean, and exponentially bigger. We're like, oh man, this is like another 50 to 100 people showing up, and people bringing kind of their magic. All of a sudden it was just everybody bringing their modalities, and I think it was well, that's like what, 5 years ago, maybe 5 years, six,
Maybe.
five, maybe something like that.
I'm not even sure at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, like time has been just crazy because it's so compressed,
Hmm.
and yet also it seems like so much has gone on in such a short amount of time.
Right.
So it feels like a long timeline when it's been like, oh, it was just 5 years ago.
That's crazy.
Pandemic was
5 years.
just 2 years ago. Like all these
Right.
things. Like, so
Huh.
I see like these timelines. Like that's why we're like, to myself even too. I'm like, damn, I don't know, when was that. I have to like look back at dates. I'm like, oh, that was just 4 years ago. I'm like, it seems like a long time
It
ago.
does feel like a long
Yeah,
time ago.
because so much has
You're
happened.
right.
So many evolutions have happened within just a short cycle.
Hmm.
And I think during that time specifically, when we were kind of gathering, I had already been doing this work on my own, like my own journey of self-realization for quite a while before. So when like I got hit up and be like, hey, come and do sound. Um, so yeah, I had already been doing that on my own. And so when I came in, um, it was interesting because it was a lot of young energy, like
Hmm.
young crowd coming in. And I was like, oh, wow. Like people, even cause I was older also. I'm 45. I'll be, yeah, 46 in March. And so then I
Yeah.
was like, I felt like an elder even,
Right.
and so
Yeah.
that was really, and these generations that are coming, um they're just clicking in right away. They're just like, I don't know, they're not, I mean, they go both ways. Yeah, some go that way, but then those that like these young ones that come in, they're just like boom, click right into like, um yeah, kind of like their journey of self-realization early,
Right.
18, 16. They're already
Hmm.
questioning the systems. And and I see that as because um the prior generations, like we were just talking about, our parents, they came in from a whole different vibe. My parents immigrated in, and so they had to work and do the thing,
Right.
and so now we're getting, the next generations are like opposite. They're like, oh no, like or if anything, we're trying to undo that. So then these next generations are going to come back, that are going to come through, are going to be really, they're going to get what we've already undone.
Hmm.
So like, yeah, my parents were like, you got to work hard, save your money because you're going to lose it. And so, yeah, we have that whole abundant, like, oh my gosh, I don't have money, I'm going to lose it. And so the next generation's kind of, we're undoing it slowly. But I remember during that time, so many, like a young crowd would come through, and I was like, oh man, this is like young crowd. And, and they had so many questions. And so
Hmm.
sometimes like in the sound bath, a lot of them would gather around,
Hmm.
and it was awesome because I was able to just talk authentically of like how it's helped me on my journey. Without. I mean, now there's like all sorts of modalities, like, oh, it's a yoga sound bath with you name it. So
Right.
it's all mixed.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I remember seeing like those like yoga for with little goats.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still
It's
a
like,
thing. It's
I'm
still a
like, damn,
thing.
they're running out of ideas. They're
Yeah.
like, bring in the goats or
Bring in
something.
the goats. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
But
it,
you're absolutely right though about the generation that came through in that time. A lot of questions.
yeah.
And I feel like that is our generation. Like we question everything, question authority, question structure, question why are we doing the things that we do. Like, and you're right, our parents had no time to question things because they came, at least my parents, they came from poverty, so
Yeah.
they had to hustle. You got to make a living because they came from
Yeah, you don't have time to ask questions,
no, no, no,
or
no,
you
no.
won't survive. It's just like get in, do the job.
What's the next meal?
And a big catalyst for the difference between these generations,
Hmm.
the internet.
Right,
Boom.
right.
That came through. I remember my pops, we had AOL dial up and all that. And we were like, "Oh my gosh,
Right.
we could like instant message, the messenger chat
The
rooms and
chat
all."
rooms.
So
Yeah.
all that stuff, cuz even prior to that, I remember when my dad brought in the encyclopedia. He bought a whole encyclopedia set, and we had access to information.
Whoa.
And we were doing book reports. We're like, we don't have to go to the library. We got like encyclopedias.
Right.
Who's using encyclopedias now? You know, and then internet came through, and so now it's so much information that you could question everything because I'll look it up right now.
Right.
Before, what would you do? Where would you find that information?
Right.
Where'd you find out that there's fluoride in the water? Man, you have to be like, what? You can go to the library and find a book on it?
Right.
No. So
Right.
now it's like, which has its pros and cons, obviously. Now it's almost like we're saturated with information. Now we don't even know what's true.
Right. The moon landing.
You know what, bro? I'll tell you what.
Tell me.
We might jump from. I know some of the later questions was like aliens. What's he? I'm gonna tell you. Let's start off with this right off the bat.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea on all these things.
Yeah.
You know, and that's been part of my journey is going like, wow, I really cannot say 100% full that like, boom, this is it. This is truth beyond anything. Like I can't. And whether Earth is flat or round, man, I have not gone out there and seen it. I've just been shown pictures. So therefore, like, I'm like, what does my heart say? What does my intuition say? You know, and so that's really the way I've leaned toward, because if you just say this is the truth and this is the only way, and you start saying that, like, man, we're seeing already how many different realities are happening in real time amongst people.
Yeah.
Ever more so with these past couple of years. We're like, whoa, the person sitting next to you is living a whole different reality. And you know what I'm talking about, like you throw politics, religion, all the conspiracy theories. And so I've had to, like, watching these past couple of years, people go down all these rabbit holes, even people within the community.
Yeah.
Ooh, it was tricky. I ain't gonna lie, because it's very seducing, very tantalizing to get in there and go down that rabbit hole and be like, let me dig, and it's never ending. That's the whole concept, is keep you digging, and now you're distracted again from your true reason to be here is. You know, it's not here to figure it out.
Yeah.
You're not here to figure it out. Hey, here's a big key. Here's one that I use for myself. You're not here to figure this out, this whole game. You're not here to solve it. You're not here to create, I don't know, utopia, whatever you want to call it here, you know?
Yeah.
That's, at least for myself, I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm not here to figure this out. What I am here is to navigate through it all. Through all the good, the not so good, all the parts. Can you navigate through that? You know, like, can you surf through these waves and not just be like, oh, this one sucks? Well, no, it's like navigating through it. That's really it. I mean, because if you've been here long enough, you know, you've hit some big cycles in your life, big seasons, moments where you thought that, like, damn, this is it. This is the worst. This is the worst of my life ever. And like, that goes by, and then you have a great time, and then another big wave comes by, and you're like, oh, this sucks. I don't know if I'm out of money, breakup, I've lost, death, whatever. This is it. No, these are all the seasons of life. How do you navigate through them? That's it. That's really what I've come to for myself, you know? And in doing so, like, I'm like, well, if I'm going to navigate through this, I'm going to choose, like, I'm going to lean toward the way of, like, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to try to enjoy this as much, even when it gets tough. Like, okay, I know I'm going to make through it. I've been through this one already a couple times. And so just having that awareness that, like, yeah, we've all been through some stuff already. And if you're still here, well, then you can look back and be like, man, I'm still here. I've made it through. I've learned something. That's navigation. Learn to navigate. But to navigate all the outside stuff, you know, something that I saw people get caught up in a lot of, like, the politics and everything, I was like, ooh, boom, they got distracted. They distracted themselves. So for me, it was a clear sign of, like, oh, you can't navigate your internal space. So nonetheless, you can't navigate the outside space. You get it. You distract yourself. Now, if you notice, I'm not saying you get distracted. You distract yourself. Because nothing's out there distracting you. That was one thing that came through. I remember in a ceremony was like, nothing is distracting you. It's not like It's like, hey, look at me, look over here. No, but I choose to distract myself on that one, on this over here. I'm gonna distract myself on this. I'm gonna get,
Right.
I'm gonna give it energy. And so, with that being said, nothing takes your energy. Nothing takes your power. You know, people are like, took my power away. I lost my power. I'm trying to claim my power back. No, power is always there. You give it power. You give that power. So if I decide to give power to, let's say, politics, then what's my algorithm in life going to be? It's going to feed it right back. This is your algorithm now. I'm not talking about just phone algorithm. I'm talking about like life algorithm. And it's so interesting because it coincides that, I mean, the internet is just a representation of really how we function. And so the algorithm of life, like, well, what are you paying attention to?
Yeah, where are you channeling your energy?
Where is your energy going?
Especially attention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, easy. Where attention goes, energy flows.
exactly.
And I had this friend that was like, bro, how do you're not like stressed out of what's going on in the world? Like, and he thought like I'm just
Yeah.
like in my house, just like, I don't know. I was just like, bro, peace and love or something like that. And he's like,
Yeah.
you don't know what's going on out there, do you? I'm like, oh, bro. I'm like, I know very much what's going on. Now I don't have to sit there and look at the details and dig in and be like, well, what's this guy doing? What's this celebrity doing?
Yeah.
What's going on here in the politics? Was it like, I don't know. No, I don't need to know the details. I know on the grand scale, I know what's going on. I'm like, okay, I go, but I'm not going to put my energy into that because then, and I remember I told him, I'm like, hey, don't look into the eye of Sauron.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know Lord of the Rings. In Lord
Not
of the Rings,
really.
that he's carrying the ring. He has to take it to this tower, and at the top there's the eye. That's the all-seeing eye. It's like it's just scanning the lands for miles.
Mhm.
And they're like, do not look at it because once you look at it, it'll look back at you, and it connects. Boom. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, if you look at it, it's gonna look back at you.
Right.
And now you're just like,
You're gonna be in that frequency.
yeah, you're in that
Yeah.
frequency, and well, then that creates your reality.
Yes.
And who am I to say that's not real? Because
Right.
it's your algorithm, your reality you've created.
Right. And it's not just the mind at that point. Then the body gets involved.
Then the body gets involved,
Mhm.
but with the internet, it literally feeds it back to you.
Right.
I could go on your phone, I could go on your IG and look at your feed. You know, you search and it pulls up whatever, and actually that's what I did with my friend. I'm like, bro, let me see your phone, because he was literally stressing about like politics.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, look at this. Look at your phone. It's literally all conspiracies and all. I was like, damn, that's stressful.
Mhm.
He's like, what's on yours? I'm like, oh, there's like little kitties and little animals. I like looking at little animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so,
Kumbaya, baby.
yeah. So I was like, be mindful of what you're putting into that algorithm, because it will feed back, and you'll believe it. Because what you perceive, you'll believe, and what you believe, you're gonna achieve.
And I feel that, at least from my experience, and I believe that that's how you got there as well, is that you went down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah,
You went there.
yeah.
You dug in. You stayed up at night. You worried.
Oh, I watch the
Right.
videos, bro.
You watch the videos. You question government, right? And then after a while, you're like, I don't need to keep doing this. I don't need to keep watching the news. I don't need to keep up to date with all the worldly situations, because the reality is that my reality is here right now. And so
Yeah.
I feel that you mentioned something earlier about like we're not here to fix it all or
Mhm.
figure it all out. That's another thing that happens when you go down these paths of thinking and
Mhm.
experiencing life. Um, you come to a point where like you I don't know, at least me, like I had that, oh, I want to fix things. I think I can change the world. Um, I think that comes out of having a good heart, but it also comes out of being maybe naive as well, a little bit
Mhm.
of, and being young, and tender, not really realizing what the world is yet.
Yeah.
And then when you do come to realize, like, actually, the best way that I can change the world is if I start looking within myself and how I act, right? And that's simple. Like, I mean, I'm saying that's simple.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing to say, and it's actually nothing new. Like, we've heard this before. Like, you're familiar with it. Anybody listening right now, it's familiar. They've heard that before. Like,
Yeah.
who Gandhi, right?
Yeah.
Change.
Everybody.
Be the change you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Be the change you want to see,
in
right?
the world, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing new. But when you hear these things, cool. Makes sense. But when it connects and you experience it in your life because you've been pushed, you've been beaten, you've failed, you've
Mm-hmm.
tried, you've been let down, you've been backstabbed, whatever it is,
Yeah.
or actually maybe you have made some change and you saw that you made change through pursuing the things that you want to do, and then that becomes like a ripple effect in your life,
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, the point being that I feel that you get to the point where you realize that realization of like, I'm not here to change anything, is because you were trying at some point.
Yeah. But that's the whole journey. This is the
But that's
whole
the journey.
polarity.
Right.
You
Right.
got to go through it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that's what this realm, this plane of existence, that's what this one is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then telling your homeboy, like, I don't need to keep up with everything, because at some point you did keep up with things.
Yeah.
And some point you were like informed. Because I know that happened. I've had friends tell me that too, where like, you're not afraid of coming off ignorant because you're not aware with the current
Yeah.
situations. And I'm like, I need 5 minutes and I'll break it all down. Like, let me just update myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I know what's happening. Let me
Yeah.
update myself with what you think or what's being fed to us, and then I can break it down for sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've been through that already. It's like a repeated thing. Like the faces change and
Yeah.
maybe the tactics change a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's like money, power, right? Politics,
Well,
money, power, lobbyists, right?
what you get is you understand the energetics of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what comes around. Finally, you start understanding energetics. And
Mm.
so a lot of times I tell people like, let's get into the energies of these things.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Explain that a little more.
So let's put aside love and light and all
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Let's just talk energetics. And so understanding the energetics of something, and mind you, like also first you have to understand your energetics, how you're working, what your intuition, what makes you feel like, oh, I don't know, that this doesn't make me feel something's going off inside of me. My radar is going off. That's the more you can understand yourself, well then your antenna is gonna go off on anything else on the external, and so energetics. I like to tell people like, all right, let's just break it down to energetics. That's a language we could like this way we don't have to get into like I don't know, um, yeah. I think energetics is just where we can meet, and so something simple. I'd be like, well, let's say if you're just watching this video or something, how does it make you feel?
Right.
Oh man, well now it makes me stressed because now I like, is it true? Well, what are they doing? Oh, they're lying. Oh, they've poisoned the food and this. I'm like, okay, so the energy around this brings up like some anxiety, huh? Okay, so that's the energy. That's the energy involved in that one, And so after a while, I just tell like I would tell my friend, I'm like, hey, just seek the energy right now that's going to feed you. That's not going to take you down those routes. Like, just play with the energy. Like literally, just see like, ooh, I don't know. When I'm in nature, whole different energy. Go
Right.
step outside to like a park. Around here, we have to go to parks, or go to the beach or something, and you catch yourself just like, whoa, this is nice. The energetics, real simple, you
Right.
know.
And then if these energies do come up, like the food example you just gave,
Yeah.
it's like, well, maybe it is important to you. Maybe that's why you feel anxious about it. And what can you do
So what
different?
are you gonna do? How are you gonna play with the energy? How are you gonna
Yeah,
shift that energy?
exactly.
Oh, mash. Okay, well, I'm gonna eat better because now I know that. I'm
Right.
like, okay, well then, if you eat better, your energy's gonna change and you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's an approach, one way of being able to get to somebody to understand.
Yeah.
So like just the energies behind stuff. I'm like, hey, what music are you listening to? I'm like, what's that eliciting
Oh,
energetically
for
from
sure.
you?
Music is a big
Yeah,
thing.
big one. I mean, it's a major influence.
And it feeds the ego too, depending on all of it. Really,
Yeah,
whatever you're listening to, like if it's a sad song, you not all the time, but
it'll
you want to feel sad too.
yeah,
Like, I want
yeah.
to feel sad.
Hell, you're like,
Or
okay,
like
let's take me.
if it's like a rap song, like maybe it boosts your ego. You're like, oh, I feel cool. I want to
Yeah.
feel cool. Like,
Oh, right away you hear something
yeah,
like you just feel thuggish.
yeah,
A beat. You're like, whoa, that could like that quick.
yeah. My swag's coming out now.
And so I got into sound,
Right?
and I was like, whoa, I can literally like on the soundboard shift people's energies.
Mm.
Just as any music can. But I was like, wow, like I can shift somebody's energy so quick. And I remember when I first started, literally I had like one metal bowl, and I had some friends at the house. I'm like, hey, close your eyes, check this out. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And for a while. And then I'd finish. I'm like, what'd you feel? And they're like, whoa. I'm like so relaxed. Like, I don't know. I was gone. I was like, I wasn't even thinking. I was just feel so good. And so like that's what really kind of sent me into that. I was going like, wow, I can like access people's energy and for the good, bringing like somebody to just relax.
Right.
The whole reason of like the whole concept of well, I call them sound journeys, like what I do, um, is really taking people on this kind of sound journey where they can go into their most natural state. What is that? Being relaxed, like being in harmony, just being like, oh, I don't have anxiety. I'm not thinking. I'm not depressed. I'm not all those things. Like for a moment, they could just be in that state and the body will function at what it's supposed to be doing. The heart slows down. The breathing gets deeper. The muscles relax.
The nervous system
The nervous
relaxes.
system relaxes. I mean, bro, these are
The
just
monkey brain
this is
relaxes.
just gold right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
In these times, ever more so. How
Mm.
like can you regulate your nervous system? Once again, beyond all the fluff, let's just like I like to break it down to just even the physical. Like before we go into, hey, I don't know, we're gonna ascend to 5D and 12D and we're gonna talk to beings and all this.
Yeah.
Like, bro, can you regulate your nervous system?
Right.
Are you grounded here, like on Earth? Do you feel like in your body, like those things, and so being able to bring people into that is like that's the healing power of sound in regards to like doing sound
And
journeys.
did you have anybody influence you or like mentors or anything?
My I guess the two of the major ones was when I started going out to the jungle over 10 years ago, and doing ceremonies out there, working with like the maestros, the chamanes, and the curanderos. Was I was like, oh, they're using sound, like literally just what's called chacapas, like bunch of leaves, and their voice and the vibrations they would create in their songs and their icaros, and that would just send me deeper and deeper into like my own reflection, and I would go like, that is amazing. And then besides them guiding the sound of the jungle, the nature itself,
Mm-hmm.
like I was tapped in. I was like, oh wow, I could hear the river, the crickets, the everything. It was like an orchestra, and I don't know, that captivated me. I was like, man, it does something to me. Like it puts me in this deep, relaxed place, meditative space, deep reflection, and that's when I came back and I started kind of literally researching sound and frequencies and all the way down to like, oh, there's different frequencies for different organs in your body, and then I started reading on like um, what the medical studies were on this stuff, and they're like literally using lasers with the frequencies to eradicate leukemia. And I was like, oh my God, that's frequency. So it's vibration. Vibration is sound. And tapping into all that, like, man, what can you do?
And so you ended up in the jungle, exploring the jungle and going through that journey before you even were doing sound healings.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How did? What?
That one
I
was,
gotta know about
yeah,
that.
that one really was,
How'd you end up in the jungle?
oh man, I tried on different hats. I was different avatars for quite a while. And nothing was working for me really. And a major one was I had gone to prison for 4.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I went for the feds, and that obviously that life didn't pan out. I was like, okay, well that didn't fit. Um, but when I got out, I was like, well, what now? And I dove into a relationship that was uh, a long term relationship, and I started like really getting better from getting it. Once I got out of prison, I was just like really grateful. I had a lot of gratitude for everything. I'd lost everything, so now I was like, okay, I'm just happy for my freedom
Right.
and my body, and wow, I'm back out. And little by little, I started building myself back up, and with my partner at the time, and after I believe like 6 years, like it fell apart, and that was the second big awakening. Really, that one was like almost that was actually more painful than prison, because prison was more physical and mental control,
Okay.
but this was like emotional. This was the emotional body,
Right.
and that was like, oh man, that's just the heart
Shattering.
shattered.
Yeah.
Now who am I? I just, I thought I was doing it, and
If I may ask,
yeah,
how did you guys?
we were together, and it was like my first big relationship.
Right.
I proposed, I got engaged,
Yeah.
and yeah, she cheated,
Mm.
and I came to find out, and that was devastating. Sent me to depression, and I was never somebody to, even when I was locked up, like I had some moments of just like depression. Obviously, I was like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I've really done it. But this one was like the heart wrenching. In there, it was like I'm depressed, but damn, I better like not show it. What am I gonna be crying here in prison? And so that one was like toughen up type of thing. But
And
then,
depression and like anxiety.
just really depression, being like, whoa, I've really messed up my life.
Okay.
Like now I have nothing. Everything I had, I'm on point, gone.
And what did depression look like or feel like to you at that time?
While I was locked up.
Well, when after the breakup,
Oh, after the breakup, you
that
know what it
yeah,
looked like?
like
It
what was
it,
your
it looked
daily
it looked
experience?
textbook. It was the very textbook. I ended up like I'm not even a drinker, and I was like going to the bar trying to get drunk.
Escape.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna drink, and I'd be like, give me another shot. I'd be like 2 shots. I'm like, okay, I'm drunk. And I was like, I'm not good at this, but this is what you're supposed to do because it hurts. I'm sad.
Right. I seen it on TV.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I would go to my home. I bought like, I think at that time it was when Fireball had come out.
Oh, the little
Yeah,
little shots.
the
Yeah.
cinnamon thing, and I'm like, oh, this is tough. And it's like, I don't know. I'm like, that's just a bunch of sugared cinnamon. And I was sitting there drinking in my home in the dark. Um, Depression. I mean, it affected me so much that like my hair was coming out.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Your thoughts. You were
yeah,
thinking a lot.
a lot. And then I punched a wall, broke my hand,
Mm.
and so I was like, whoa, I'm physically broken now.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is happening to me? Like I'm losing it, and and this is where psychedelics came into play as a powerful tool in my awakening. Was I would escape. I would get out of town because I knew she lived there, and I was like, I don't want to run into her anywhere.
Hmm.
I don't want to go grocery store and run into her. So I would like every weekend I'd just take off to the Angeles forest and just like sleep in my car and go walk around, and I'd make like a campfire, and I'd just sit there and I'd cry and I'd just like cuss and yell. And so interesting because like now with men's work, I was like, we do also.
Right.
So I was like, whoa, I was releasing stuff. I was like just yelling into the fire and crying and being like, oh, and I would do that, and I'd find this like peace out there, just like, oh, it's so quiet out here. And then I remember a friend of mine was like, hey, why don't you take these mushrooms with you next
Mm.
time? And I had never really dove into mushrooms. I mean, in high school maybe I ate some, but it wasn't like in this context.
Right.
And so yeah, so I go up there and I do. And it just like connected the dots. I saw why everything had to happen, why I went to prison, why this relationship failed, because I was still not who I truly was, even in the relationship. And so therefore I couldn't meet her. We couldn't, yeah, we couldn't go into that space. And so I kept going back up there and going deeper with these and exploring more. And I'm like, well, what if I eat more? What if I
Right.
this? And yeah, I got to some deep parts where I was like, okay, that's a lot. Maybe I shouldn't eat that much. But it did connect the dots so much that I was even able to just forgive her and just be like, whatever. Like I get it now. I'm skipping down the mountain, like happy.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember a moment I was like, oh my god, like
So
it's all
you
working
went
out.
in with depression, crying,
Yeah,
sad, by yourself, screaming,
yeah.
and
And I come down skipping down literally.
rainbows and
I remember
butterflies.
when I was like, "Oh my gosh, this makes sense."
Right.
Like, and so there's these moments of when somebody has an awakening moment, it's like if you changed one cog wheel in a machine. Like, let's say, you've seen like those watches on the back, it's all these little cogs. You change one wheel, it changes all the other wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, all of a sudden it's shifted everything. So the minute that you have like this awakening experience, and usually sometimes it's hitting a rock bottom moment.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time,
brother.
I mean,
Yeah.
hats off to those that just like naturally get it.
Right.
If not, sometimes you have to go through deep loss.
But even then, I mean, I know you know this. Like even then, something's gonna come up.
There's still an unraveling. There's still going to be a big transition.
Yeah, exactly. So like, even if we find some type of realization or awakening or healing, that's to turn the chapter to the next.
Yeah.
Right. Like that page to the next chapter.
That turning of the page.
Yeah.
Is the process of transformation is destruction.
And then you have the new gears.
You have to destroy all that once was, all the beliefs, all those things. They have to just come crumbling down. And that's hard. That's hard to swallow because you're like, I have to let go of all these friends, like all my circles, my persona, the identity, like all that's like crumbling. Even and so that's why when people like even like your foods and the music I listen to, like all that takes it plays a role in it
because we're familiar with it.
Yeah,
and it's comforting.
And you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to let that go. And but honestly, like if you are going to cross that line, it's hard to go there and carry everything with you. Like, oh, but I want it, but I'm going to bring all my old ways with me. Like, no, sometimes you have to trust, and that's the falling surrender. Like, okay, I'm changing, and it might be leaving your old life behind.
Yeah. And that's the magic of life sometimes, like rebirth.
Yeah. It's a complete cocoon. It's a complete caterpillar butterfly transformation. You know that the caterpillar, when the larva goes into the pupa stage, it doesn't just transform. It has to completely dissolve.
Right. It liquefies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And becomes something completely. Right. So it's not that, hey, just I don't know, just change your hair and now you could cross over. No, it's a complete transformation, where people will be like, whoa, I remember. And people tell me that, like, damn, Fabian, I remember when you were in prison. Like, whoa, way different.
Right. And that's the thing too, when you're going through your changes, right? You're going through your journey, and then people that know you from the past, right?
Yeah,
when they see the changes, or they're like, wait, what, you were somebody else before.
Yeah.
That those feelings, like sometimes we're worried about what people might think if we change or if we start trying new things. And
that's what we were just talking about, that you could feel very alone.
Right.
And taking it all the way back to like why all these people were coming out to these gatherings, because like, oh, there's other people that also are on the same wavelength.
Right.
So it's important to find community. It's important to find others, because if not, it's just you within maybe your family circles. A lot of people also like, dude, it's just me, but my whole family's like still stuck in, I don't know, religion or politics, and I'm just in the house. Like, that's tough.
That is tough.
And that's a lot of young people living with their parents, and they're just butting heads, and they're just like, I can't do it. Like, I'm like, you need to find those that do understand. Find your people.
Right. Just don't find the cult.
Yeah, just that's hey, even that's tricky.
Yeah,
because if you're new to this, how easy susceptible that, oh, this makes sense,
right?
And you feel accepted, but sometimes even those things, like, you're gonna learn the hard way. Maybe you gotta go through. You gotta go through some stuff. You gotta go through some, like. And so a lot of times people that come with me to the jungle, and like, it's good because like I'm just go work with the indigenous. Like, come with me. I'm just a bridge. And if I'm to help facilitate something, it's like I'm just representing what I've learned. It's not mine, versus like a cult, like creating something else. And yeah. So, but nonetheless, that's their journey.
Right.
I kind of feel.
Okay, so we're like dibbly-dabbling around the jungle. So a lot happened. That's a lot.
Yeah.
We just went through a lot.
Well, I still got the timeline. I'll bring it back.
Okay, let's go.
Look, so I end up in the jungle. Oh, no, wait. Oh, coming back down the hill, skipping. I'm skipping down the forest here.
Yes.
And so, like, I like to research stuff. and so I started going into like, what is in mushrooms and what is this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this the synapses inside the mind. I can, have a different opening, different neurological pathways, uh, and along my research, all of a sudden, boom, ayahuasca pops up, and I'm like, what is this? And ayahuasca, it's like even the most potent uh, psychoactive substance served by shamans in the jungles, and I'm like the Amazon. I'm like, okay, but how do I even find this? Would I just Google shamans? Yeah, Google is just barely starting, I believe, back then.
Yahoo.
Yahoo them, AOL, and and it and I was like, how would I even find this?
Yeah.
And and now, if you've been on this journey also of what you ask for just will show up if it's in if it's in I mean if it's in good integrity, or either way, but you'll get what you're asking for, basically. And just a couple days later, a friend like calls me and she's like, hey, have you ever heard of ayahuasca? Because I signed up for a retreat to go to Peru.
Whoa.
And I'm like, no way. I'm like, I was just researching this.
I love when that stuff
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And the more it happens, the more you're very open to that. I'm like, it just happens. We call it, what is it? Manifesting. You're manifesting this.
Right.
Synchronicities. There we
Speak it
go.
into existence.
Synchronicities.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Or sometimes telepathically, like you're, maybe you don't know what's about to happen, but subconsciously, like you start picking up the future.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you go so deep into it, it's
Yeah.
like you could even pick the timeline for that to be
Right.
in existence.
Yeah.
So that's we'll get there later.
Yeah.
That's another level. But and so I'm like, sign me up. I'm going with this, and I didn't even
Fuck
have
yeah.
money. I was like, I
Fuck
took out a credit card. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm paying my flight ticket and all
Yeah.
this, and
What is money?
yeah,
What is
I was
credit?
like, I'm going for this. Like,
Yeah.
like I said, I was saving money, but I'm like, well, this is a big trip. I need this. I'm like, I need to research this.
And this is at a time where like this stuff isn't
this is
popular out here.
Yeah, and so it's been interesting to see the evolution of it now.
Yeah.
Now it's like everybody's going out there. It's all over the place. And I sit back and I'm like, whoa, that was going like when, I don't know. I was literally out there. Nobody was out there. And I'm like, oh, is this safe? And so it was the beginnings of where we're at now.
I'm telling you, dog, you're Godfather. You're
Man,
pioneer,
bro,
over here.
I tell you, sometimes I see it now and I'm like, I was doing that like way back, you know?
Yeah. I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys went.
So we go,
Yeah.
and those first ceremony, I'll tell you what, I did. The first ceremony was clear message, and
I'm sorry, you're in the middle of the jungle.
yeah.
So like you get to.
Oh, we get there. We get
to
on
the
a boat.
country, you get on a boat.
Going down rivers and hiking in, and I'm like, oh, we are off the grid. Like
Yeah.
I've never been
You're not
off
in the
the
city.
grid. Yeah,
It's
there ain't
just
no
some-
lights, no electricity.
Okay.
Yeah,
paint the picture.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, we're out here, and they just put a little net over your bed, and
you're with a tribe.
It was a little village, and so all the
Village.
people that work there, they're like, they live there, and so it was, and a lot of the people that would come through and were part of the village were the Shipibo people that live along the river of the Ucayali River, a tributary to the Amazon River, and so I headed off with the curandero, the maestro, because I spoke Spanish, so I was able to relate.
Yeah.
And he took a liking to me, and he was just like, he always kind of gave me these the inside scoops, and two messages that came through, like the two things that up to this day still, those are the ones that really set me off, was answer the call and find the others. And I was like, what does that even mean?
Answer the call and find.
Yeah, like
okay.
what's that even mean?
Right.
And so when I was leaving, I told the master, I'm like, okay, I'm out here. And in Spanish, he goes, conteste la llamada. Me dice así. And he's like, and I was like, whoa, did he just say answer the call? And I was like, how did he know? Like that just got me.
Wait, the
shaman.
But those messages came from where originally?
Well, I was on the medicine. I had
okay,
in ceremony.
In ceremony, those are the messages you received.
Yeah.
While in. Oh, okay.
Yeah, very clearly from we would say from grandmother. the messages from the medicine.
Okay, okay.
Great spirit, whatever you want to call
And then when you were leaving,
it. Yeah, and then he confirms it. He's just like, hey, contesta la llamada, answer the
ooh,
call. And I was like, what does that mean? What call? Like, pick up the phone? What?
yeah,
And find the others. What does that even mean? Find what? And so, like, whatever, I just came back. Yeah, so I come back and
wow.
I'm like, all right, like, what does that even mean? And before I left, also, he told me, he goes, you're always welcome to come back and I'll teach you more. He goes, that was just like a sneak peek. That was like, and I always think about it. I'm like, that's like and sometimes those first ceremonies, it's a lot, and it's like if you got to walk into the library, I'm like, you got 2 minutes to get all the information you can in this library.
Right.
Oh man, that's like, I'm just looking around going like, where do I even start? Oh, 2 minutes is up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I come back and I'm like, ooh, I got 10 minutes now. Ooh, now I got an hour. Oh, now I got like all this time. And I
Yeah.
could really start
And
learning.
you're not starting from the beginning anymore.
No,
Right?
now you're learning to navigate
Right.
through all this information. And yeah, in the beginning, it's just like, man, you just got to clean the house out. So that's why a lot of the purging part of that.
Right.
And I had a lot to purge too. Everything from relationship to prison. And I was like, oh my God,
And then family, childhood,
all the stuff, all the thoughts, all the prior lifestyle, all that stuff had to like get cleansed out before you're ready even to step into the library of information.
Wow.
It's like, oh, let's just scrub oh, you're drinking, oh, you have food, you have fluoride, like all the things. Like first you got to do that. And so over there they go like, first you're gonna purge. Like they even before you even drink ayahuasca, they want you to go through a cleansing. And so when I came back, the other part was just the sound. I was like, wow. And that's what I came back and I got a bowl. So that's how that started.
Yeah, Tibetan bowl.
Yeah, Tibetan bowl. And I was like, ooh, this is like interesting. And I got another one. And then within, by the end of the year, I was like, I'm going back. I need to go back. I need to like, what does all this mean? Because that was like just a lot of information. It was almost too much. So now I want to like go get some help. And me sharing the story of my experience when I was going to go back, I had like some friends and family. They were like, I want to go with you on this one, And so like 8 of them came with me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And little by little.
That was fast.
Yeah. Those were the others.
Mm-hmm.
And it became that. And then I'd come back months later again and more people came back with me. And it was becoming a bridge of like finding people that wanted to come with me. And also and then I started like doing sound journeys and sound baths and then people started coming and regulars. And then even like with the community that we were involved in, others. And I was like, oh, these are finding the others.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I was able to actually like implement that, like that teaching, like, oh, it's just not just like, hey, find the others. It's like, oh, let me go purposely with intention. And I know when I walk into a room, I'm like, all right, I'm going to connect with somebody. I put that out. I'm like, somebody's going to get something. And they may come and be like, hey, what is it you were doing? Like that, like that's, I'm interested. Or, hey, like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what are you looking for? What is it that you're seeking? And maybe I can help.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been like that, and so I've used that as the open door for people to come in and keep myself open. And so yeah, so I just have been returning back to the jungles for almost 10 years, 2 to 3 times a year.
I was gonna ask,
taking people.
how long has it been?
Yeah, it's been like 15
years.
trips. I think I've been in the jungle. I'll go back this February 5th to the 12th if anybody wants to come with me. Yeah, and so worked with different maestros out there. I also, same thing as we were saying, you sometimes have to learn the hard ways. Sometimes I sat with people that were not in integrity, and I was like, ooh, that's not vibing with me. That's off. But I had to learn the hard ways.
What do you mean?
Maybe a shaman that's not in integrity.
Oh.
I remember one guy, he was drinking.
Oh.
But he's holding this deep reverent ceremony, but he'd also drink a lot on the side. And so then that comes through. You're like, ooh, to hold that space, you got to be in good alignment.
Right.
And so like some of those things would come, and like in the jungle, they say, se chocan las energías.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I'd be like, I don't know, I'm not getting a good vibe, and I'm getting like some weird visions here. And so a lot of that was just like the energies were just
Mm.
not clean,
Mhm.
until like I'd find the right ones. I'm like, okay, this is good. I feel safe. And so yeah, so that's been the journey, man. That's been the journey to Peru. And that's what it's called, Journey to Peru.
How long you guys go out there for? 10 days, you
We'll
said?
go 8 days, 3
8 days.
ceremonies. So every other day we do a ceremony, um, off the grid, which is amazing to just be off, like away from everything, away from your phone, away from electricity, away from sounds. It's amazing what happens to the body and the mind within a couple days. Just especially Western minds, we come there and we'll twiddle our thumbs. We're like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, people will be like, Fabian, what's next? What's on this itinerary? I'm like, I don't know. If you want to just rest on the hammock, if you want to go down to the river and go sit by the tree and go walk around, go check out the birds, listen, and we will almost like it could drive somebody crazy,
Right.
And I remember this one time, even when I started going, I would ask the maestro, I'd be like, hey, what time should I wake up for breakfast? And what time is ceremony at? And what time are we gonna gather? And I remember you just look at me kind of like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, like what time should we be for breakfast? So, and what time is the ceremony at? So I could tell the people we're gonna
Right.
gather at that time. He's like, I don't know. You wake up when you wake up, and we'll eat when we gather, and the ceremony will start when we're all together.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get that, but I mean, like, what time? Like on the clock? Well, they don't have clocks and watches, bro. They're like, I don't know. You wake up when the
Oh
sun's up,
man.
and you're hungry, and they function on a circadian rhythm.
Right.
They're working on a rhythm. And we're all like, I don't know, you wake up, you go to work early morning, I wake up later,
Mm-hmm.
I eat different time. Like, we're all just totally different,
Right.
and we're all off
Right.
completely. We're not working with nature, I'll tell you that much.
No, not at all.
Not at all. We're not waking up at the sunrise and all this, and so
Not even the same people within the same household.
no, yeah.
No.
So imagine just we're super sensitive creatures, as powerful and strong we are, we're also very sensitive. And so like we're all out of different frequencies working
Right.
together. We're like, and so at that moment when you told me that, I got it. I was like, oh, my Western mentality is trying to like, I'm trying to put it on him.
Structure.
Yeah,
Structure.
I'm trying to put it
Yeah.
on him. Like, and then I got onto his wavelength. I was like, oh, I get it. And what happened? I don't know. I woke up sunrise. I'm eating breakfast. We're all there. We all meet up. We're like, hey, everybody's here. And then we all meet up at for a ceremony. So interesting how that. And then we're all on the same wavelength.
Right.
And within give it like 2 days, 3 days, everybody's settled in, and everybody's like, well, I'm so relaxed. Like I've just been napping, reading, meditating. I've been talking to others, and versus here we like need to be doing something, or we don't feel like we're being productive or worthy or anything.
Fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the 9 to 5 Western mentality.
And so your first trip back, you already had a group of people come with you,
Yeah.
friends and
Yeah, it's like
family
my
and all of
cousins,
that.
and I was like, okay, this is cool.
And then when did you make it like an official thing? Like, oh, I'm gonna start bringing,
Yeah, I think
putting it out.
the third time that I did go back, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just put it out there and invite
Mm-hmm.
just kind of whoever, and I started like just getting the word out that way. And then I figured out how to like set it up. Literally, there's a lot of transportation, ground transportation, boat transportation,
Yeah.
food,
The logistics.
all the logistics. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, there's a lot of logistics also organizing. I mean, to carry food for a group into the jungle, they they got to take it on the boats. It's like travel through boats, bring toilet paper, bring all supplies, bring it into the jungle, enough food for everybody. And so that's that manpower. People from the village have to carry all this in and all back out and
Right.
take their trash out and bring every day. And so like I was able to really fine tune the logistics.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if somebody wants to go with you,
Yeah, if somebody wants to go, man, it's always amazing when people just feel like I know what they're feeling, because it was the same when I first went. I was like, I need to be there. Something's calling
right.
me. And if they do, I'm like, hey, look me up. Just go to realizationation.com. Go to my
Yeah.
website. Um, or just hit me up on IG. Either way, Realization Asian, reach out and personally talk like, hey, I got you. You know, I'll make sure everything's good for you.
And what have you seen people come back like? I mean, okay, so you've been doing it for a decade now.
Yeah. So here's a good part is also I've been able to like have my test subjects, so to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been able to see people from 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, um, how they've what their life has turned out to, and I'm still in touch with a bunch of them from way back, and sometimes they're like, "Whoa, remember when I went and look at me now." But I'll tell you this much: when you come back, sometimes it's not just all of a sudden you're just like, "Hey, I got it, and let's go." You know, no, it's now.
Nah, you're not skipping down the ring
No, now it's
down the
like,
mountain.
oh yeah, this one you're not skipping down. You
Yeah.
come back and that could be so. So this is the most important part: the integration work. That's really where, if you're going to do this medicine, in any type of medicine work, and by that I mean whatever therapy, whatever it is, how are you going to integrate that into your everyday life? Because being out in the jungle and having visions, uh, you know, and being around nature, and you come back to the city, back to your job, how does that apply? How do you integrate that? How's
Right.
that
It could be more
your
depressing.
stressors? Exactly. So then that's called disassociation.
Hmm.
And you come back and you almost, and I've had it before. I'm like, I don't want to play this game. It's happened to me. Like, I come back and I have to go restock my fridge after being gone. And I go to the grocery store and I'm like giving them paper for this wrapped plastic product. And they're like, thank you. And I'm like, there you go. Give me my change. And like that, it seemed, I was so far removed. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I didn't want to do that,
Right.
And so sometimes people come back and they're like, I want to sell everything. I want to just get a van and I just want to go into the woods
Right.
and Nazi society and all this. I'm like, ooh, don't go doing that yet.
Yeah.
Or I'm a divorce. I'm gonna get a divorce. I don't need any. I'm like, oh, don't go doing all that yet right now. Cause it's like you got a sneak peek at a map and you're like, oh, here's how I get from point A to point B. Drop a pin. Okay. Now you come back home. Now you got to do the journey to that place. You got a little peek of like what it is to be in your fullest power of your truth. And that's why out there they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I don't have a worry in the world. I have all this community right now. Everybody's supporting. And then you come back and you're like, oh, I'm back to my boss, back to my kids, back
Right.
to my partner, back to whatever it is. And so that's the importance of integration work, and I'm there to help people with that, and even there's professionals for that.
Okay, and so let me ask you this because I a couple years ago I was speaking with this young man right now that's talking a lot about integration, risen or
Mm-hmm.
stay risen.
Yep.
And I remember us before he was like talking about it a lot in on his social medias and the stuff he does. We were discussing integration and like what does that even look like, and also now it's a topic.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago it wasn't even discussed.
No.
Now it's like let's get blasted into outer
And
space and receive all the messages and see the roadmaps and like clear the slate in a way and like, oh shit, this relationship is not what I want anymore, or this job is not what I want anymore, and yeah, let me go get a
mm-hmm.
van and let me go live in whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. Just I want to completely change my life now, right? And so, how does from your experience, like, how does one reintegrate back? From my understanding, my limited
Mm-hmm.
understanding is having a support system,
Yeah.
people that understand what you were going through, and then maybe what you experienced. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe like the messages and maybe what you think you want to do, but I believe that integration has to do a lot with people, humans, other
Mm-hmm.
humans around you.
Yeah.
I don't know if integration could be done on your own. I'm not too sure. That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking. Like,
Yeah. That could be because a lot of people, when they have that moment of disassociation, what do you want to do? You don't want to go outside. You want to just stay inside, and and that could just send you down that hole. Versus communicating, getting out what it is that's going on in your life. You're like, whoa, I'm now feeling depression. Like
Right.
I thought this was gonna heal me. And it's not exactly that. These medicines, these modalities they don't just heal you. So I always make sure to let people know, like, hey, if your intention is just like, hey, heal me, that's not what it is. It opens the opportunity for you to step through that portal, and then it'll support you. It's there to support you. These medicines and all these modalities, they'll support you, but you got to do the work. You got to work with the medicine. Don't let it just work you, basically.
Right.
And the integration part is like, yeah, coming back and as basic as some of it sounds, it's very important too. Then I'm
Okay.
like, okay, um, make sure you don't go back to your old ways. Don't go back to eating unhealthy. I like to bring in like what I call the third dimensional duties.
Yeah, yeah. And if you reset your system, don't go back into those
Yeah, because
routines
they're
and those
tied.
habits.
Because those
Right.
habits, of I don't know, getting high, let's say, or just vegging out in front of a TV show or something, they're connected to an emotion.
Hmm.
Like you do it because of this. If it brings you a false sense of fulfillment. So if you go back to that, it's still connected to that emotion. So you're just connecting right back to that emotion. And you're like, oh, I'm back to my anxiety. Versus going like, ooh, let me throw a little wrench in the system here. Let me not drink alcohol. Let me hold off on hanging out with my usual crowd. Let me change my environment. Let me just clean up my room. Let me just shift the energies. All those little parts, they
Right.
play a role. They're important. Hey, let me go to the nature a little bit more. Let
Right.
me listen to different music, and all those things, they feed. They're all part of the
Hmm.
rungs on the ladder.
Eat differently.
Eat differently. Oh,
Have a morning routine that consists of maybe breathing and
yeah.
stretching. 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh,
It
I'm
doesn't
paying
even have to be
attention.
too long.
Yeah, I'm just paying more attention to my body, to
Right.
myself, to what's going on inside. You're starting to turn inward. And so those are the integration parts. Yes, it could go very deep where it's like, okay, I work with they're called psychedelic integration coaches, where it's going to be like, okay, you just brought up trauma from your childhood, and now it's like you just open the files up, and now
Yeah.
it's out, and now it's like what you've been totally avoiding and maybe even taking medication to suppress,
Right.
depression pills, anxiety pills,
Hmm.
right?
And didn't even realize it was maybe influencing the way you live your
No,
life.
because I mean, let's be real. How many people in society are on on that those pills?
It
On
seems like a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like a big
Oh,
issue.
it's a huge issue.
Right.
You
And the
know,
issue is that it's being prescribed and
prescribed nonstop.
by doctors, and us growing up, we're supposed to trust doctors, right?
Yeah,
They're gonna take care of us,
yeah,
right? They're gonna tell us what to do because it's our body and our mind, and so we trust them.
yeah.
And what we don't know is that they're actually getting fucking paid
They're getting paid.
to slang you these drugs,
Yeah,
right?
and
And so there's side effects. The problem is that there's
things
side
are, yeah,
effects.
these things are meant to numb, so you don't feel that depression.
And
Like,
maybe some people need it.
yeah,
Maybe, and that's the thing. Like, we're all wired differently. That maybe that drug is gonna work for me, but it might not work for the next person the same way. And that's really the biggest issue because we're all like kind of guinea pigs in that world. Like,
oh, they just,
I've never taken any,
yeah,
and thank God I don't. I've
yeah, yeah.
never, or nor my family. But from what I know, it's like it's a guinea pig situation where it's like the next appointment you have, you're already fucked because they told me to take these many for this long,
Mhm.
and I feel kind of weird, or I feel whatever I feel. Um, okay, well maybe we should try this one. Let's
Yeah.
change it up. Like that's the solution in
Oh,
that
they just
world.
keep you going on it.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine if you come off of it, like when people come on to Peru with me,
Mm-hmm.
I go, "You're gonna have to come off the medication."
Wow.
And can you imagine, like, you've been like, some people were like, "I've been on this medication for 10 years. I'm about to face all that." Like, you're gonna just cold turkey, not cold turkey. They have to go through a little way of weaning off.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm like, but you are gonna have to face yourself, because this, specifically this medicine, it's going to make you feel. And so
Right.
these pills are meant to not make you feel.
Right.
So you're getting like, that's the one major contraindication in it. Like you cannot be on a MAOI inhibitor. You can't be on an antidepressant or any of these that are blocking feeling literally. Because then this is going to be like, we're going to make you feel everything. You have to go through all that. And that's painful. And that's the part you might purge it out, is you're going to go through all that trauma. You go through all that, like bring it up to, because you have to revisit it and kind of sieve through it to find the gold again.
What is that, man? Like, what is that about humans that in order for us to heal things, and move forward or forgive, we have to fucking feel.
You
Like,
got to
what
feel it.
is that? Like, and a lot of it is interesting because, like, it's in the subconscious. It lives
Mm-hmm.
in the subconscious part, right? So it has to be brought up. And
Yeah.
most of nobody wakes up and says, "Today I'm gonna go and look at all my fears and face
Mm-hmm.
them." Like,
Yeah.
you sometimes maybe little things, but a lot of stuff that's like deeply rooted lives in that part of the mind, and also the subconscious is connected to the body. So like we hold it, like
Yeah.
we hold it in
Literally.
our body, we hold it in that part of the mind that we're not fully aware of or
We don't even,
fully in
we,
control
we
of.
don't even know how to access it. We're not
Exactly.
taught this.
Yeah, yeah. And like here's us, conscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of the mind trying to understand the subconscious part of the mind
Yeah.
that we don't
We
know.
don't understand. How do you even understand that?
Yeah.
And so some of those parts is real basic. To try to tap into it, uh, my approach is first like, let's go into the body.
Mhm.
Let's start feeling the body.
Right.
Because if you're so, let's say trauma, and it's so trapped in the body, literally like my shoulders, and like I have bad digestive issues, heck, even I have heart issues. Then it's coming back into feeling the body, because the body is connected somatically with all those emotions. So that's why I'm saying sometimes these third dimension duties, like, hey, start eating good,
Right.
get some breaths, like, whoa, I've never taken so many deep breaths. Like, yeah, do that for a minute and see how you feel compared to when
Mhm.
you're like, wake up and already you're like in anxiety.
Right.
All right, then how about we do this? You're not gonna drink coffee right away. You're gonna like drink some water and you're gonna take some breaths for like a minute. Boom, shift. Then you're gonna change your foods. You're not gonna take in all these processed foods that are going to just slow your energy down.
Yeah.
Boom, another shift. All
Right.
these little things, going back to what I was saying, they're like these little tiny shifts. Hey, I don't know, go outside, walk barefoot, find some earth. Like all these little things, as cliche as they may sound, are the steps to it. Before we go into like, okay, now we're going to go into your heal your inner child wound and go into your ancestral healing. You're like, huh? What?
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But that's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
But how do you drop that before it's like, hey, stop drinking alcohol?
Mhm.
Like first, like let's start there. Sometimes people go like, dude, what should I do? I'm like, have you drank water? Sometimes breaking it down that far. And I'm a personal trainer too. I train clients physically, and I've done that for a long time. And so sometimes clients come with like, have these issues. I have I have headaches, and I'm like, have you drank water?
Right.
Let's start there, and work our way up until eventually we're like, hey, what's going on in your emotional body?
Mhm.
Because I like to think of it like we have four bodies. You have your emotional body, your mental body, your physical body, and then your etheric or your spiritual body, however, whatever you want to look at that as. And so you can't. It's like a chair with four legs. You take one leg out, well, the other three are no good.
Right.
All four have to be solid for the chair to work. And so addressing all those aspects of the self.
Right. And as you go through life, even if one starts kind of like maybe getting
Getting wobbly.
wobbly, like you're able to like kind of look and like, oh wait,
Ah,
I'm wobbly over there.
yeah. Then,
I need to make
yeah,
adjustments.
as you're starting to, it's never going to be perfect. That's another thing.
That's a dance.
It's always kind of wobbly.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh man. So
Yeah.
you're always making little adjustments everywhere.
Right.
That's called
And
awareness.
the thing about integration, and not just after psychedelics, not just integration, actually, maybe change in life,
Yeah.
right? Like if you want to make change, A lot of the time we can envision the change that we want, but we forget that change needs consistency
Yeah.
and time. And so, like, and habits, right? So,
Yeah.
like, these walks, like, it's not gonna work in one day, buddy. Like, you're gonna have to go with these walks for a while. Like, something
Yeah.
has to, like,
You gotta,
completely
I mean,
get
scientifically, what
revived.
do you need? Like 21 days of doing something for it to become
Right.
like ingrained?
Exactly.
And those are, intentions are great.
Right.
Actions are better.
And I get it. Like, I want to feel better right now.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not the reality. Sometimes, and we skip this a lot. I don't know. I say we because, like, I've been part of a little bit of like the yoga community, the spiritual
Mhm.
community. We don't mention enough time. Give yourself time. Like, you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Yes, consistency, please. Yes, the breath work, but one cold shower is not gonna,
Yeah.
flip the
Yeah.
switch. No, no, no. Consistency is gonna definitely, yeah,
Consistency that comes
and
with discipline.
right. It comes with discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh, and what's discipline? That's taking, uh, like accountability.
Oof.
Oh,
Taking
now I gotta be
accountability.
accountable. Now I gotta be accountable.
Right.
The process of awakening
Mm,
and really stepping into this journey is that you're now 100% responsible for yourself.
fuck.
That's a lot.
Fuck.
Fuck. Damn, I can't pass it off on anybody. It's my parents' fault. It's
Yeah.
society. It's the man. It's this race. It's man. We are masters of victimizing ourselves and putting it off on every possible avenue. Well,
Yeah.
it's because of this. Like I'm held down because of the system.
Right.
No. So you're accountable, and when you're accountable for yourself, I'm saying you're 100% accountable for your magnificence.
Ooh,
Ooh,
say that again.
man's greatest fear is his magnificence. To
Jesus.
be in your
Buddha,
fullest. Oh man, that's
Muhammad.
all of them. They all knew that. Like that is the great. And that comes with change. Like
Hmm.
man's greatest fear is change.
Right.
Going into that because in being 100% responsible for yourself, dude, you're in your most highest power self. You're like, damn, I am in control of it all.
Even just hearing that right now, I don't know why, but I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh man, me too. I'm like, ooh, yeah. It's a good checks and balance for me
Yeah, for
personally.
sure.
Like, oh, am I my fullest magnificence of myself, or I blame it on this, I blame it
I
on
got sick. I got injured.
yeah. I slept. I'll do it tomorrow. Like
Right.
all the things, and the humans are very unique creatures, amongst all beings, because we have the capability of having awareness of
Hmm.
self. First off,
Yeah.
we have self awareness,
Yeah. Yeah.
and which is good, but also sometimes it just becomes just me. Um,
Yeah.
and we have the full spectrum. We are capable of doing everything on all through the whole polarity, from the good to the not so good.
Hmm.
So when we say like, why God, why is, if there's a God, why is there war, and why would a child be born crippled and all this?
Right.
Because we have the full spectrum, everything for us. And once again, that brings us back to like, okay, navigate through it. We also have the capability of navigating ourselves through it.
Hmm.
So that's the whole game plan right there. And if you can navigate it in a good way, I'm doing all the right choices.
Right.
I'm doing that, and this feels good, and it's getting me there. Then you're once again being accountable.
And acquiring the right tools along the journey.
Yeah,
Whatever tools work for you.
yeah.
This is I don't teach yoga anymore. Actually, um took that hat off, put it on the shelf
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
year. I said, I'm not gonna teach anymore. This journey's over for me. I taught it about 6 years,
Yeah. Whatever.
consistently at a studio in LA, and then at parks with in Long Beach and in LA for about 2 years, not so consistently. Anyway, one of the things that I would bring up, because that's what was for me, what worked, was finding the tools that work for you, and you know what, trying things even if
Yeah.
they're uncomfortable, or even if they're cliche, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
the things that seem cliche. For me, I'll give you an example of something that I thought was cliche, was kind of like affirmations or self-talk.
Yeah.
Like those affirmations you tell yourself, or the self-talk you like, looking in the mirror and positive affirmations of like, I can do this, I got
Yeah.
this. Um just healthy conversation for me was cliche for
Mm-hmm.
some reason. I was like, oh, that's stupid. However, my ignorance was that the conscious, it goes back to the conscious,
Mm.
feeding the subconscious, right? So if I'm consciously telling myself, I can do this, I can get through whatever I need to get through, or I can accomplish this goal.
You're
I'm
amazing,
excited.
Charlie.
Exactly. I'm
I
amazing.
love you,
Right?
Charlie.
Exactly. That instead of, you're a fucking loser. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, fucking
Yeah.
idiot. Like those little whispers, like, fucking idiot. Like shit like that. It gets, into the subconscious,
It's
and
being recorded.
it's being recorded. And then at the same time, it's like, where did you hear that from? Why are you talking to yourself like
Whoa.
that? Like, did an adult say that to you? It doesn't necessarily need to be your parents. It could be like some cool kids, right?
Yeah.
That you were kind of around, that were talking shit, or siblings or cousins, or maybe it was a fucking parent or a teacher, that said some dumb shit to you, and that kind of got recorded there. And so like years later, 10, 15 years later, you're repeating it to yourself because they
Yeah.
got fucking stuck there. So that's why I realized, I was like, wait, no, 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 no. Positive
Mm.
affirmations, self-talk is actually very important, because they're like mantras. That's why
Yeah.
mantras are important. To me, it was silly, and I late at night in bed contemplating life,
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, what is all this shit? Realizing, like, to me it's silly because I have to repeat it and say it. Like, that felt silly to me.
Yeah.
But the power, when I realize, is like, whoa, wait, no, no, no. The power is that I'm conscious. I can be conscious. And conscious is like, it's a, right now, like higher consciousness or
Yeah.
whatever. No, conscious, like just conscious,
Just
like
conscious.
just aware,
Yeah.
like just like,
Everything has consciousness.
yeah, like nothing spiritual about it. Just
consciousness.
yeah, just,
Everything has consciousness,
exactly.
but not
So,
everything is aware.
exactly. And so becoming aware that the power of the conscious, just being conscious, and then also how it affects that other side of the mind, the subconscious. Like, subconscious was a big thing for me when I was teaching yoga, just because I would try to teach or talk about the things that I went through, right? Same, I'm sure
Yep.
you go through the same thing. And so I would always give an example of fears, right? So like, do you remember any fears that you had growing up?
Oh yeah, yeah. I had fears of
Anything in particular?
what was fears? I remember I had a fear of fire.
Okay, a fear of fire,
I just
right? And so do you remember why you have a fear of fire?
te vas a quemar.
Te vas a quemar.
So something as simple as a program. So like in these
Which probably came like this, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Te vas a quemar.
Te vas a quemar. No toques eso. Te vas a quemar. No toques eso. No haga eso.
Like,
Don't do that. Don't touch
right.
that.
Which they were doing the right thing.
It was their mantras.
Right.
It's their programs putting in, and it may not be by ill intention from the parents.
No.
Especially if they didn't have the awareness of how to consciously guide a child. Es puro regañar. Está regañando. Everything.
Right.
Te vas a caer. No hagas eso. Pórtate bien. Everything. To a kid. And man, I mean, if you don't have patience for a child, everything is going to be like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And so those programs coming in, don't be so loud. You're going to give me a headache.
Right.
There's a story of like the kids are playing in the house and the mom gets home from work and the kids are just like, Mom, look at me. And they're just, they're like showing off to the mom because they're happy the mom's home. She's had a long day of work and the little girl's just jumping and dancing. Mom, look at me. Mom, look, I can sing, I can dance. And the mom's like, stop, you're giving me a headache. Boom, instantly wired where the girl goes, my expression of happiness and of love, like,
it's too much.
It gives mom a headache.
Mm-hmm.
My expression creates negativity.
Right.
And so that person goes introverted and they go like, they shut it down. And so that's how something that it's not like the parent was, they just say stuff like that. Don't be stupid. Boom, programmed. And then what? Now you are repeating, like you said, those whispers.
Hmm.
Like, oh, fucking stupid. Just, should I speak up right now? No, probably best you just don't say
Right.
anything. It's playing out.
Hmm.
It's crazy. That like what we're doing as adults, it's all just playing out from those moments.
Yeah.
And
For
so,
real.
going back to these cliche affirmations, no, they're not cliche. We have to literally reprogram. Like, I am beautiful. I love you, Fabian. You are good. You are go
Hmm.
making it. You are great. Like, because, like, yeah, me speaking it sounds silly, but my brain is listening and it's recording. And once again, what it receives, it's gonna believe and achieve and perceive. And so, like,
Right.
I'm rewiring it with just these words.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm sure you've heard it, like, you in this journey of like healing, or putting in the work. I like to say like loving yourself,
Hmm.
right? Because um, when I used to think about it as putting in the work, it's like, I mean, nobody likes
Yeah,
work.
work.
Like, no, no, put in the love, like love yourself. Like in the journey of loving yourself, you do have to reparent yourself,
Yeah,
and nobody's gonna, right? Because you get to a certain age and nobody's gonna tell you what to do anymore. You do it yourself.
yeah.
You have to parent yourself through life at some point. And
And
so,
only you know what you want and need,
and sometimes we don't even know
and we
that
don't
shit.
even know that sometimes.
No,
Damn.
or and we don't know why we act the way we act until we start like maybe using these medicines, and these medicines give us like, a you act like this.
Give
Do
you
you
a
re-
reflection.
do you remember
Yeah,
something?
maybe you open that file up. You're like,
Yes.
oh my god, I remember when that incident happened, or
Mm-hmm.
any modality. What? So many people have started their journey when they first came to a yoga class.
Right.
How many people have been saved by yoga?
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, whatever, yoga. But no, I know a lot of people that was their first entry of just going like, oh my gosh, I feel great. Shavasana, I love this.
Right.
Wow, I broke a sweat. I feel great. And so those moments of actually having a moment with yourself, like,
Yes.
it's powerful.
And it's the first time their body received extra oxygen,
Yeah,
was able to relax.
stretched and moved it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We don't get to do that all the time. And yoga's a great way to
yeah.
do that stuff.
Exercise, just anything that's
Yeah,
gonna like do
exactly.
that.
So back to like the subconscious stuff and all that. My what I remember in my memory is being a teenager and being afraid of clowns.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Maybe
I was
there's a lot of movies back then.
terrified of
Wow,
clowns.
that's damn.
Like, you have no idea. And so I remember being like 15 or 16 and going with my friends to what is it? Universal Studios on Halloween, right? And they had a clown maze. And I walked in, and prior to that, I was terrified. I couldn't even take it. And I walked in, and I was like, I had already been through so many mazes, and I wasn't even scared. And like, we're with the girls, so like, you want to be tough and whatnot. And we walked into that one, and I was like, wait, this is silly. Like, why am I even afraid of clowns? Like, they're just people in masks. And like in that moment, I just let go of that fear.
Oh
But I had to be put in it,
yeah.
and I didn't even like. It wasn't even like a traumatic experience for me. It was just a realize, like, you know what? I'm not afraid anymore. The traumatic one for me was
Mm.
spiders. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember, but I can assume that I was a little kid and a spider landed on me, or there's a spider right here, and I was like, and then boom, I'm scared of spiders. And I remember I was already 6 foot tall when I was like 15 or 16, and I remember there was a spider somewhere in the wall, and like me being completely terrified and calling my sister to help me.
You're like, what is this false fear?
6 foot man or young
Ah,
man
yeah.
asking his sister for help because there's a spider on the wall. I had no shame. That's not when I let go of that fear. No, I'm just telling you
Yeah.
a story of how bad it was for me. I got a 1974 Maverick. I was like 21. I was like, I want a classic.
Hmm.
And back then, these things were like cheap. Now they're expensive.
Yeah.
And so it had been sitting in the garage, and I kept noticing spider webs on the tire every time I would get home. I was like, there's spiders. And so one day, maybe like 2 weeks in, I got some spray. And so I started spraying, and I kid you not, these things were like this big and thick, and it wasn't one. They started crawling through because I went throughout the whole car, and they all just started crawling down. I was like, "What the fuck?" And I would spray them, and they would not die. And it's a horrible story because, like, I mean, they're just spiders, whatever. But that's how I got rid of that fear, actually facing it. And that time I was terrified. I was spraying them and I was terrified. But now, like, I've even considered having a spider as a pet.
Yeah. So see, there's a story, and then there's the reality of it.
Right.
You know, and the story is, oh my gosh, I have a fear of spiders. I don't even know why. Maybe your mom screamed at a spider, so boom, now you're like,
Right.
oh my god, spiders are bad. And we will hold on to the story, even if it's really trauma too, you know, like what was done to you, let's say really something devastating,
Right.
not just a spider or whatever, or a clown, but actual trauma, like heavy trauma.
Yes.
We will hold on to the story and relive it. And by reliving, I mean that you're actually feeling, you're releasing the same hormones you did when it happened to you at that moment. And so to come to the point of like, okay, now you're going to face it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like in the jungle on this medicine, yeah, you're going to face it.
You're going to face
all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, my whole vision is just spiders and clowns, spiders with clown faces. You're like, oh God, why? But then you realize like, oh my God, it's not that scary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think some years back I watched the movie Exorcist again. My friend was like, hey, The Exorcist is on. You want to watch it? And I was like, in my head, I was like, no way. Right. I remember when I was a kid, I'm like, I was traumatized by that thing.
Yes.
And it was like, I remember it was a family party, and like they would put all the kids like in one room, and I was like, I don't know, 7, and the teenager kids were like, we got a movie we're gonna watch. And they put it on, and I was like, don't chicken out.
Yeah.
I was a little kid, I was like, do not chicken out. And we're watching Exorcist. And I'm just there like, oh my God, I want my mom. And I slept in my parents' bed between them for like weeks after that.
Yeah.
And so some years back, I'm already an adult, and my friend's like, you want to watch The Exorcist? I'm like, and what was the first thing? I was like, no way, dude. That is like, I had that little thing like, well, no, it's just fear. And then he's like, come on, you're going to be scared of this. And I was like, you know what? Okay, let's watch it. It was so silly.
Right.
Like watching this like old movie, like I was like, oh my God, this is corny actually. Mm-hmm. And right there, I was like, so just an example of like, sometimes our story is so real in our head. It's bigger than we do it. And then when it's actually presented or you have to dive in and look at it, you're kind of like, oh. And that's why I mean that sometimes you have to go back in and sieve, like you're sieving for gold, you know, like you have to go back into the shadow. But, you know, and sometimes like regressing, going back to like, and so, you know, and I'll segue this into the men's work, what we're doing. Because sometimes this is what we have to do.
Which, by the way, the men's work that you're doing is still part of that message you receive.
Yeah.
Which is like, find your people.
Exactly. Find the others too.
Find the others.
And connecting. And it's all like, I've come to see, I'm like, oh, it's all interconnected. The medicine, we're even doing these men's circles, and it still feels like it's medicine, you know, like literally feel like, I'm like, whoa, we're tapped in.
Right.
We're emotionally open. We're expressing. We're sharing. And so a lot of times guys are even holding on to that, and guys are good at not sharing. So then they just really lock that fear in, and they will act out on it even, you know, maybe they're angry. They're going to lash out and express that.
Right.
Live with that, being directed by that.
Right. Use a loud voice and maybe profanity, aggression to express it.
Yeah.
In that unhealthy form.
Control.
Yeah. Or to like, I'd rather do this than to look at that.
Yeah.
Or punch a wall.
Yeah. All the way to actual abuse.
Yeah.
You know? And so to say the story, like we go like, we're going to regress. We're going to call in your inner child. Can you remember the moment that something, and sometimes like guys will go back to that moment to when they were in the closet hiding because the mom and dad were fighting.
Yeah.
And they're like, when you're a kid, that is devastating.
It hurts. Yeah.
And then right now they say, well, I don't know. They would fight and I'd be in the closet.
Right.
Like, whatever. I was a kid. I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, whatever. But no, that's that set of program. And so to go back in time, literally like time travel, close your eyes, go back, call in young Fabian. What was going on? And go like, oh man, like, can you feel that fear of that kid? Can you now reparent him? Like now you're an
Right.
adult. You could tell that little Fabian, like, hey, you're okay. Like you're safe. You're with me. Like, and so once again, kind of like the mantras in this, we're just rewiring, literally taking the wires, plug it over here. Let me change this one. This one's old.
And that's a tool.
Yeah, neurologically even.
Yeah.
If we want to go, physiologically, we're rewiring the brain. Like we have the brain can do that. That's what's amazing, and we have the power to do that. And so when you're ready to let go of the story, and by all means, sometimes you're just not ready, and maybe you have to go a long time and go
you're
through
right.
that.
You're right, man.
You might even have to go through lifetimes, and
Yeah, you're right.
who so this brings me to like, who am I to judge anybody what they're doing? No, they're going through their journey, and maybe I hope that they get it. I hope that they can make it through that story,
or maybe it's not as heavy or as often.
Yeah,
right?
Little by little, like let it go, you're good, and until finally, sometimes that story. Now, I'm not saying it's just going to be gone forever, because whatever happened to you, it might pop up again, but now you know how to navigate again.
Yeah,
you're like, ooh, there's that fear that usually I go into anxiety. Let me go into my breath.
Yeah.
Let me know I'm grounded. I'm good. I got support. Let me call maybe a friend, whatever it is. Those are navigational tools.
Let me call friends big.
Yeah. Having
That's a tool
somebody too. Like somebody to hear me out, especially if they understand,
Mhm.
because once again, if you're in a circle of friends that they don't understand that,
Right.
they're going to be like, bro, stop crying.
Right.
Like, man up.
Right.
And
or they won't say anything.
Yeah. Or they just can't hold that space.
Right. Yeah.
Versus like, okay, you have people that do understand. You feel supported and seen, even if they don't have to say nothing. They're just holding that space.
And a lot of the time when we do call a friend, like, actually, a lot of time we find our own answers just by talking.
Oh yeah. Sometimes people, if they're gonna, they call me or something, I'm like, do you want advice or do you just want me to listen?
Right.
And they're like, just listen. I'm like, to say no more.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here just as an ear. And so in the men's groups, like, we don't have all that for men, like, to speak out amongst our boys, maybe. So instead, like, we've created these groups where, you could express all that, and we all relate because we've been through some sort of similarities, and just to get that off your chest.
Right.
Like in Spanish, se llama desahogar. Te vas a desahogar. You're like, you've been choked. Now you're like unchoking. You're like, whew, got that out.
And that's the thing about, we're talking about men's work, and in humans, like, we can all relate to something. Like, we all have emotions. We all have the same emotions. And so when somebody shares something they've gone through, like, maybe we haven't experienced that exact emotion or experience, but since we're human and we relate because we all have the same emotions, I can be like, I know what you're feeling.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now you're connecting.
And then you connect.
That's connection.
Right. And then when you hear me say what I've gone through, then you're going to have the same experience and be like, oh, yeah, I can understand what you're going through. Right. And then maybe seeing me walk a little lighter next time, or maybe by the end of the day, have figured something out.
Yeah.
Connected some dots. And you're like, oh, wait, maybe I can connect some dots too.
Ooh, the connections could go as far as maybe maybe I've never even had that experience, but I have compassion for like what I see the suffering. I see what you've gone through, and man, that's just making my heart open up. Another connection, or, hey, you lost a family member. I lost my cat. Still relevant. It was still very powerful experience.
Yeah.
Different details, but still we've gone through grief. We've had loss. We've had sadness. We've had anger. We've all gone through it. The details different.
Right.
But we've gone through the spectrum of human experience, of what it is to be human.
Human emotions.
Once again, the full spectrum of them all. We've all gone through them.
Right.
Everybody's gone through it.
We think we're special sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, no. I don't know about that. I'm like, you've never had shame. You've never been guilty. Yeah. You never felt guilty. You never feel unworthy.
Sometimes we think we're the only ones that have experienced it.
Yeah. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody understands me.
Right.
Well, see, when we go into that, nobody understands me. what happens? Then we're gonna go into our shells. And the men, once again, men are like, I just keep it to myself. I don't need
Right.
to like. They won't understand, so they bottle it up, you know. And in our men's group, we say that, oh, the lone wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's like, I'm a lone wolf. I just kind of do it myself.
Right.
But the wolves run in packs.
Mm.
They don't. A lone wolf is because it's gonna die because it only catches little food. It's not like in a pack that can
Right.
take down big issues. Let's say,
Right.
you
Right.
know. And so
And if there's like an enemy,
yeah, what are you gonna do as by yourself when
yeah.
when you have a major fear that you don't even know how to navigate? What are you gonna do? You don't have the
Right.
tools.
You're greater in numbers.
Yeah, but then you have like some brothers or a community or something that's like, hey, we got you. Like, we get it. What's going on? Like, oh, okay, well,
Right.
what do you want to? Do you want to go out to nature? You want? What do you need? Like, whatever it is, you know. And once again, you reprogram yourself to ask for what you need.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
And as men, once again, we're like, I don't need help. I got this.
Right.
You know, versus like I've
You
learned
push
to,
on.
yeah, you push through. I'll
Push
push
through.
through.
Yeah.
But man, and for men that do this a lot for a long time, the physical representation that happens, the manifestation, what happens? Boom, big bellies,
Mm.
boom, heart attacks, all these things that are just showing like you're just storing and storing.
Right.
Literally, like as a physical trainer, I'd see somebody's a man's cortisol, his gut is like a ball. I'm like, whoa, he's just holding so much.
Ugh.
Or the heart calls him back eventually because they've been so disconnected. And what
Mhm.
is that? Sometimes like a stroke. Why do men have? Why are the men have the most strokes and heart attacks? Man, we've disconnected from
Mhm.
ourselves in that way. And
Wow.
so I see that. I'm like, oh, that's a representation of the physical to the emotional,
Yeah.
you know, from the subtle bodies to the physical body.
And how long have you now been part of these men groups?
So it's been with the group is called Sacred Sons, and we've been around now for 4.5 years,
Wow. Okay.
and just grown really quick because there was a calling for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of men came, and it's interesting because guys will show up and they're like, oh man, what is this? This could be kumbaya and all this.
Mhm.
But there's something there that you're going to connect with, like you were saying, somebody expressing themselves, and you're just gonna be like, ooh man, I feel that. And so there's something there, and just to even sometimes guys are, I don't even know why I'm here. And next thing you know, they're like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, this is what happened to me, and this, and we've all gone through some. So to just put it out and let it out
Yeah.
is once again the subconscious. You can get stuff out of the subconscious because it's storing stuff.
Yeah.
Like a computer, it's just eventually you got to clear the cache.
Yes. Yeah.
Or it slows down the system.
Yeah.
Some of us we have not updated the operating system
Right.
in a long
Right.
time, bro.
And sometimes we think we delete it, but it's in the recycle bin.
Yeah.
You also got to clear that shit out too.
Like, damn, I thought I got rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back up.
Gotcha. I'm back.
I'm back, bitch.
As Dave Chappelle says, gotcha, bitch. God damn it.
So about 4.5 years, man. Yeah. I do remember, yeah, it did spread like wildfire. The Sacred Sons.
And brother Albert, one of the co-founders,
Mm.
was with us in some of those original gatherings
Yeah.
at the parks, and so it's interesting, looping it all the way back to that, seeing where people have gone,
Mhm.
because like we all started there, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is well, I got a crystal, and I'm doing yoga and all this, and it's great and all this is great. Once again, like as cliche as it may be, and as we may judge it, but hey, this is what opens the door to more reflection.
Right.
And but the true testament of it is embodiment.
Mm.
Are you embodying it, or is it just fluff? Is it just the outside, and still all that other stuff is boiling in there that has not been
Yeah.
looked at, and is asking to be cleared and
Oof.
looked at and purged and healed.
Yeah.
But I've got the fluff on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
and so the embodiment is really the true testament of like, wow, you have been through it, and now you're applying it, and you're doing the discipline, and you're doing all those things that have applied to clearing all that.
Yeah.
So when somebody has embodied it, you're just like, okay, like now I accept what's coming my way. Even now, I even know that when the challenges come and they're gonna knock me down, I already know that I can come back up and I
Right.
got the tools.
Right. It's like I like to um I call that like chief energy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you're in a position and you have to make hard decisions, um, even if, regardless of what anybody thinks, if that's what you think is right for yourself, then you need to make those decisions. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that. But because you've embodied it, as in where maybe before, like I know before I've been terrified to make decisions,
Yeah.
because what are people gonna think, or what are people gonna say, or is this the right thing, or I don't know what to do. Like, how's this gonna pan out in the end? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, yeah, like you just embody it.
Embodied, and
Yeah,
that comes with experience.
it
That
does come
comes
with
with going
experience
through the seasons.
and realizing, what, if I fuck up, then it's fine.
Yeah, it's
It's all,
part. It's
yeah,
all
it's
part of
part
it.
of it. Yeah,
Is it even a
all,
fuck up at this point?
yeah,
Is it a failure?
yeah,
No.
and taking accountability.
Like
Like I don't.
I've had to. A lot of this comes with re like rephrasing a lot of these things. Even I've learned
Mm,
to like, okay, it's not that I fuck up. It's not a failure.
okay.
It's a lesson. There's something there's because all the greatest quote unquote failures of
Right.
ours were actually the ones that propelled us with like, well, I ain't gonna do that again.
Right.
I'm not gonna go there again. I ain't gonna do that choice. I ain't gonna be with that person again. So technically, damn, those are some good. Those are the ones that really moved us forward.
I like that. I
Yeah,
like that.
even I've even learned to rephrase like, oh, the universe is testing me.
Ah, that's big. I've heard that before.
Yeah,
I've said it
God's
before.
testing me.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, you're going through the test right now. Not really. So what would you like? How would you change that? It's well, I've wanted to like I want to be my greatest. I want to do be the most optimal Fabian that I can be. And so the universe is like, "Oh yeah, here's your opportunity.
Yeah.
Here it is."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's presented sometimes as, well, quote unquote, the test or the challenge or whatever, but it's actually an opportunity. It's like, hey, you were asking, you want to level up?
Yeah.
Here it is. Like, this is going to teach you a lesson. And so then you're like, thanks for the thanks, but that's not exactly how I wanted it served,
Right.
but it's an opportunity to make the choice.
Mm-hmm.
You may repeat it. Well, the lesson will continue. And so I've learned in same thing as we're saying, like, hey, what we speak out is what we're getting fed back into our brain, and it's gonna create the reality. So then I'm like, what am I saying? Like, I'm being tested. Oh, I'm being tested. Oh, who's the victim now?
Right.
Once again,
Yeah.
I'm the victim. I'm being tested. Oh,
Right.
curse you.
I'm being tested. This is heavy.
Yeah, this is heavy. And
Yeah, it
why?
comes with
Why
the
me?
load. And why me?
Yeah, because if I'm being tested, comes usually with why me.
Right.
Versus going like, oh, okay, what am I gonna do? This is the opportunity that I've wanted to like, and if I make the right choice, I'll get a good outcome and move right along
Mm-hmm.
and heal and continue.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things has been in my journey of going of restructuring how I'm walking, how I'm talking, how I'm approaching every little thing is like, how can I look at this differently for the better, so to say. That'll get me to that other point faster. Now sometimes I take the long scenic route. I'm going to learn, and I'm just some more suffering.
Right.
we
Jesus.
we like to suffer.
Jesus.
Jesus.
And all that also comes with like who you surround yourself with too. Like if your peoples around you are also like, oh, I'm being tested all the time, like, and that's a frequency they're in, and you're gonna eventually, yeah, you can put somebody great in that type of circle, and they'll start doubting themselves. They'll start questioning, and they'll start feeling the universe is testing me, versus maybe before they were treating life in a, I got this. How can I, like, what do I need to do? Or, like just steadfast, ready for life. And then put them around the wrong circle. And then,
and you
geez, the
change.
frequency.
We naturally will adapt to our environments and our circles.
Which is important.
Super important.
To have these men groups.
Yeah. And so in these circles, we're all a different way of speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's new to guys. Sometimes they're like, whoa. All of a sudden they feel elevated. I remember a saying my mom would tell me, "Dime con quién andas y te digo quién eres."
That's a classic.
Right?
Yes.
We've all
Yeah.
heard that one.
Yeah.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
Like, tell me who you're with, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yep. Yep.
And so it's true. Tell me
And
what you eat, and I'll tell you who you are. Tell me
yeah.
what you listen to, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah.
Like
And it's long enough. Like
yeah,
do it long enough and yeah, for sure it's true.
yeah. So good to make these little switches, little shifts in life.
What else about Man's Group before we
Um, right now we're like international. We're working everywhere. We just did Mexico. We brought it to the brothers out there. We did processes in Spanish. Uh, right now in Europe, all throughout the U.S. So if anybody's interested, men, definitely come out. Hit me up or just go on sacredsons.com or on social media. There's a calendar of events. Just familiarize yourself. And as scary as it may be, I get it. Like guys are like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be just a bunch of stranger guys, and I don't know what's gonna do it. That's really that's the moment of like, I need something different.
Yeah.
Let me give it a try, and I promise you, you're gonna come out differently. Something's gonna click. You connect with another brother that's like, you're like, oh wow, this guy relates to me, and so find one of these. We're doing them all over the place, on the East Coast and over here on the West Coast. So definitely come out and just find community, like women or men or whatever it is. Like, go to a yoga studio, go to a sauna, just open the doors, start trying something different. Because once again, those will shift everything else in your environment. And then you'll look back a year down the road and go like, whoa, what a journey. I remember I
Right.
was doing this and now look at me like,
Right.
But that journey is sometimes it does present a lot of stuff. It's like, once
Right.
again, you're gonna have to do some big changes in your life.
And
But
that uncomfortable feeling of being in maybe in a new group or not knowing anybody in a circle, that goes away.
yeah, it goes away.
It goes
It
away.
goes away.
It feels a little bit like, what's gonna happen here? Who are these people? Or what am I gonna say? Or what are they gonna say? Or whatever the case.
Yeah,
That all that chatter goes away.
goes away pretty quick.
Then you're like locked in.
Yeah,
And then the whole group is locked in.
and you do it long enough.
Yeah.
Like you said, you do it enough times that you're just like, boom, you're coming. And then what happens? Now you become the lighthouse for others.
Right.
I like to tell people, like, don't go once you, like, you don't have to go and save people. You don't have to save the world. You don't have to. If anything, just be in your integrity, be authentic, be who you are, and that'll create your light. And that becomes a lighthouse for the boats that are out, like, in the rough waters to
Yeah.
find the light.
For sure.
Don't go into the rough waters and try to save the boat. You'll drown.
Yeah.
Just be the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And let the boats find. They have to learn also, and they'll come. They'll come in. Those that do, they'll come.
I wrote a poem about that once. Kind of like saying like I'm the light and you are the light, right? And so it's important that you remain the light because someday I might forget that I'm the light, and so that you can remind me that I am the
Oh, that's
light, and then
beautiful.
someday you'll forget the
Yeah.
light, and I'll be like, hey, yo, remember the light, like, and so like
Yeah.
continuously doing that for each other.
Continuous, like, reflections, because
Mhm.
yeah, we all need each other. That's what we're humans, and that's where we actually thrive in community and
Exactly.
connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is a lot of it's heavy, right? It can get heavy. Like
Yeah.
we didn't even dive into like personal experiences or too much of like heaviness of like what comes out in these groups or what one might experience with these psychedelics. But like, what about on the other end? Like, I know I got to one point last year where I was like, you know what? No more.
Mm-hmm.
No more of this subconscious work. No more of this healing work. I'm gonna start just living. I'm no longer gonna, right? I was like, because I got into like all the time, like,
Yeah.
I need to fix this. I'm damaged here. This is wrong. Oh, I'm like this because of this. I'm like this because of that. Like it
Yeah.
became too much of a thing, and so I had to verbally, right,
Yeah.
consciously say, "That's it. Yeah, basta. Like that's enough. Right now, I'm here in the 3D, and so I'm gonna start experiencing the 3D too because going up here isn't what life is about.
Yeah.
Going in here all the time isn't what
Yep.
life is about. And so as I go and these things are presented to me, then I will deal with them. You know what? I got a bag full of tools here. I feel like, and if I don't, I got the circles that I can go
Yeah.
to. I got the friends that I can hit up. Hey, I got a therapist that I can hit up too. Like whatever the case is.
Mhm.
But I know that I got to a point. I was like, all right, 3D
I've gone
time,
there. Yeah.
3D time.
I've literally have told myself that I'm like, I'm gonna go do human stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And literally, when I did that, I went and drank beer.
Oh,
I went and had a beer. How about that for?
there it
So,
is.
so but with that being said, just make sure that you're anchored.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Right.
If you are gonna be like, hey, it's like think of like when Neo would go back into the Matrix. He
Mhm.
just put on his coat and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go back in the Matrix.
Right.
Like yeah, you could go be a human, go through all the stuff, but just be so anchored in self that you're like, I'm not gonna waver. Even if I dabble in something, if I go eat fast food, if I go do something, it's not gonna throw me off.
Right.
And by all means, I'm like, hey, don't go cutting yourself and make this like struggle. You're just gonna whip yourself. If anything, like yeah, because go through the human experience of it
Yeah.
all.
Like find the balance.
Find the
Like
balance,
enjoy yourself.
and watch that you don't get attached to the concept of healing, to spirituality.
And I think that's why I said it.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, this is
Oh, the ego is
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah.
The ego, you know what's the strongest ego?
Mm.
The spiritual ego,
Mhm.
because now it knows the words. Now it looks the part.
Right.
Now it does all the things, and so once again you're like, ooh, I've healed. I know a lot. Be careful. That's a
Right.
slippery slope.
That is.
If anything, ooh, that's an even bigger ego.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times is, and with that comes humility. Oh, I love humility.
Mm.
It's to just remember, like, you're like, damn, let me bring myself back to my knees to like really being humble. And so in our process of once again opening, and now you sharing this of like, this is like the hero's journey type of thing that you go through. You do all the things. You've done all the things. You've even taught yoga. You've done all the breath work. And finally you're like, why am I doing all this? Let me just live and enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that because I've done that too. I'm like, whoa, this is too much.
Yeah.
And I just kind of just go back into just doing me.
Yeah. And I felt two in my head and two in my body. But not in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Not in a healthy way. And I can tell you what, like now that maybe it's been a year now that I consciously tell myself that, I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
I feel
You're not
like
judging yourself.
you're right.
You're not judging others. You're not judging everything.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for something to fix
Yeah.
within myself or other people in that cycle of like, or people coming to me because they know I teach yoga and asking me things and I don't like I'm the light, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you're the light too. Like just don't forget.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I do feel lighter and I feel happier actually. Like
Yeah.
it became a shift of like, okay, not I'm gonna go into the 3D and drink beer and eat whatever I want. It was more like no more like digging in, no more digging into the mind
Mm-hmm.
and the emotions and actually just experiencing life and also I think mm, it had been like a year after losing my father, and so like looking into like business too, like running the family business and um saying, well, you know what, I've done a lot of other stuff. Let me dabble into business now and explore that, experience that on here on
Mm-hmm.
earth and life and like providing for my siblings and my family. And so it's been an interesting journey, but I tell you what, I feel lighter.
Yeah.
I feel lighter. Like now reflecting on it, I definitely feel lighter and stronger. But it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like this is
Yeah.
life. Something else is gonna come up. And so like if I don't consistently keep up with whatever I need to keep up, whatever tools have worked for me, then when the things do arrive, if my tools
Mm-hmm.
aren't sharpened,
You'll slip back.
then I'll slip back into
Yeah.
whatever it is. But if I've been able to integrate, then I'll be able to deal with.
I mean,
And
literally, that's you talking about you've integrated, you've built foundation, you've done the practice, and now you're like, oh, I could let go and still not lose myself. I'm not going to just let go and all of a sudden I'm just going to go just down the drain. Instead, it's like, oh, I can enjoy all the things and not. And I say like judging because like, yeah, we end up judging. Like even in doing this work, you're like, oh, I'm not there yet. Oh, I got to
right.
heal this. Oh, that person's not healed. Oh, they're not. Like,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And we're trying not to judge,
Right.
and yet we're judging. And when you judge yourself, you're gonna find yourself guilty. And if you find
Um,
yourself guilty, you're also gonna punish yourself,
yeah.
and that's a cycle:
That is.
judgment, guilty, and punishing.
Mm,
So like, yeah, we're trying not to do that. We're trying not to bring on more karma.
yeah.
I'm trying to release karma, and really, you know what I've come to, like, releasing karma. Like I don't have to try or do stuff. It's just like same thing as you're saying. Like, whoa, come back into being yourself. Enjoy.
Enjoy. Yeah.
That the full circle. What does it come back to? If you really are doing all that, is like you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
You're enjoying the journey with all the ups and downs.
Right.
Like the roller coaster. Like, oh, it's scary, and when it goes upside down, all this, you're like, you know, when you're like, when people are like in line to get on the roller coaster and they're like, oh my god, I don't want to do this, and then they buckle you in and you're like, fuck, why did I do this? Get me off. You guys get me off. And they're like, no, you're on.
Yeah.
You get ready.
Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. And launches you, and you don't even have time to do but scream, and it's just flipping you and like
Yeah.
going through the whole roller coaster, and you stop and you're like, whew,
Yeah.
I want to do that again.
Right.
You're like, damn, I was so scared, but that was thrilling. Let me do that again. I feel like that's how we come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I got off the ride for a little bit. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a ride.
It's a ride.
I was like, maybe I'm not ready for another ride at the moment. But I think here's the thing too. Also, like, there's no race to like have it all figured out. There's also at the same time there's urgency. Like as much as there is not like because there's no finish line,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no, and like you said earlier, like it might be lifetimes, but the urgency comes at least for me, and I know that most parents can relate. Is that when you have a child,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a child, like there's an urgency of being like, wait a second, especially if you've done some type of self-love work
Mm-hmm.
or some type of like self-reflection or some type of like, oh, I need to heal. Especially if you've done that, you realize like I'm going through all this because most likely because of my childhood and then
Mm.
the decisions I've made as an adult because of those things. And so like um it's a big topic right now where like we're trying to stop generational karma, right? And so
Yeah.
like we're not gonna get it 100% right. So like that's where the balance is like there's urgency because I don't want to dump.
Yeah.
I don't want, not right now, I'm tired, I don't want to do that to the next generation
Yeah.
that did it to me, right? You don't want to pass it along, but at the same time we're human.
Yeah.
We're gonna be tired one day,
We're gonna pass it on.
and we're gonna pass
do
something.
Yeah.
Not as heavy, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not the whole package because we understand where our parents came from, especially maybe our backgrounds of like
Mm-hmm.
our parents migrating to the States
Yeah.
and like we're like first generation here and they had to hustle, they had to
Yeah.
work hard, they had to struggle.
Big difference.
Huge difference. And now it's like, okay, the next generation,
Whoa.
they're on a different stepping stone.
Whole different.
Yeah, whole different thing. And so like the urgency is there because it's like as we go,
Yeah.
it's like, yo, let me
So
it's
so
a dance.
so with that being said,
Yeah.
the urgency, that's why do you think these times are just right now so tumultuous and so much has become brought up to the surface?
Yeah.
Because it's got to be cleared.
Right.
Like, hey, all that stuff that's been just brewing and passed on and passed on and passed on, and here you go. Great grandfather's anger and all this is passed
Mhm.
on, and power, control, whatever. And now it's all come to the surface, and we're the ones to clear it.
Right.
Like a brother of mine calls it the beautiful burden. It's like, oh my god, it's like really like I like this is a lot,
That's funny. Yeah.
but it's like like we're strong enough to do it, and we have
Yeah.
each other. Like
That's how I feel about self-awareness. Like having self-awareness, it's like what is it? Like it's a gift and a curse,
yeah,
right?
it's a paradox.
It's a paradox because it's constant. It's a constant.
Yeah, the more awareness, the more that you're accountable.
Right.
Like, ooh, am I gonna do that? Am I gonna
Yeah.
say this? Am I gonna like now you're because when you don't have awareness, blaming it on everyone, just your energy's leaking on everything. It's just
Yeah.
everything except you. And the more awareness, I tell people like, hey, when you wake up, back to Neo. When he woke up, when they unplugged him, what happened? He's eating remember he was eating slush right there, and
Right.
he's on the Nebuchadnezzar, and he's like,
Yeah.
damn, this is what I woke up to.
Right. Right.
This is my awareness. And they're like, welcome.
Yep.
And then the other guy was like, I want to go back and eat that steak.
Right.
Like, I want to go back to sleep.
What
And
is that? Ignorance is bliss.
yeah. And I was kind of like, Cypher, I think his name was. I was like, I get you, man. I get you, bro. I get it. But damn, you also like, for myself personally, I'm like, no, I can't go back. Now
Right.
I can't go back.
Mm-mm.
Even if I wanted to. Like, my consciousness is like,
Right.
what are you doing? Okay, you have that beer. Don't go drinking a
Yeah.
whole 6-pack. Like, so that whole thing, we're clearing all that. That's a lot, dude.
That's
a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. Like we say, from the past generation, way different because on top of it, we came into this generation with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking major.
Right.
Now we're tapped into all the information. I know what's happening right now in Iran. I can watch videos happening right now. I know what's happening in everything. And I don't know if humans are even meant to take in that much information.
That's true. Before, no, it was just whatever's happening in your town.
Know what the neighbor is, your town, what happened to the uncle.
And you had to read the newspaper.
Yeah. So, and it was just like a little tiny funnel. Now we're just like a massive hose just blasting you. You're like, oh my God, what do I do with this?
And they're growing up with that.
Yeah.
The next generation.
Yeah. And so now some of the generations coming, we're like, I think of it like they're tapped into the metaverse. They're like, that's going to be nothing to them.
Right.
And we're like, man, I don't want to be, that's not going to be my life. But kids are already just on the video game of like, what's that other, there's one game that all the kids play. And they're already like, yeah, they have skins, they have avatars in there. And,
like The Sims?
Yeah, like, no, Sims was for us.
They have a new one?
They have,
I'm not too sure.
Fort Knox. Fortnite?
Oh, yeah, I think.
Fortnite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've watched my friend's kid playing. I was like, oh, this is a world.
They create worlds, yeah.
It's a world, and the kids aren't like our age. Back in like our generation was like, well, I want money to buy the dopest shoes, the new shoes that are out. No, they don't care about it. They want the dope skin for their avatar in there.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you go to school with crappy shoes. All your homies are like, bro, what's up with your LA gears right there? Like, why aren't you rocking some dope Nikes? So in there, they're like, what if your avatar is like a poor little skin? Like, so same thing. The society is creating this, and they're already trading coins and tokens, like crypto. I'm like, whoa, they're already. This is nature, and to us, we're gonna be like, these young kids,
right?
Same as the past generations. My mom still can't figure out the phone, cell phone, and gets frustrated and sending internet, So this is our time. Everybody has their time, and we're like, this is the worst time ever. No, it's just relevant to us because it's our time, So it's hitting home for us, and so therefore, what are we gonna do? Like, it's on us right now, and yeah, it is pretty hot. All that stuff that's been down the pipeline, it's culminated now. Now it's coming to a little clog, and we're like, holy shit, what are we doing? Climate and war, and like, it's a lot, And so people are, and if you haven't been doing this work, and you're getting hit with this massive hose, this blasted open,
it's terrifying. It can be very terrifying.
That's a lot to take in. Like, man, hey, my heart goes out to those that are just awakening right now.
Yeah.
In the middle of this, like,
woo, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah.
You're going to make it, but it's going to be a lot.
It's a ride.
I sometimes think like, man, if you would have gotten maybe a couple years back, at least before even the pandemic hit, like pandemic hit pretty hard for everybody. Everybody was in on that. Everybody felt that one.
The whole world paused.
The whole world felt it.
Everybody was inside.
Yeah. It affected everybody somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, where do I fit in? Well, oh, my freedom, everything.
Right.
And so I'm seeing
Vaccines.
everything. Everybody was in fear. You're in fear of being having your freedom taken away, or the other side was like they're in fear of getting COVID.
Yeah, I remember being up and I'd be like, am I gonna get this?
Yeah,
Or like going to the grocery store, it's like, am I exposed?
yeah.
Are people washing their food?
All the everybody, like, it changed
Yeah, it
everything.
changed everything. The whole world.
The whole world.
It's like we were going in a certain wave,
Oh, we just
and then
hit the
yeah.
opposite direction.
Yep.
So it's a lot right now. It's a lot, and find the tools. Go out there and like, you're not by yourself. You're not alone.
Right.
Definitely, like, hey, reach out to me. Reach out to. There is a lot. That's the other benefit of having access at your fingertips with your phone, even with technology. That, man, now we can tap into anything. I could look up a local community. I
Right.
could, so sometimes I'm like, there is no excuse now.
That's true.
Before it's like, oh, where do I find, like all these little subcultures of stuff? No, you can now go find a breathwork shop online or something. Like, so these times are very challenging.
They are.
I do see that we're getting served a lot, but it's for a good reason, because it's getting cleaned up.
That's very true, man.
Getting cleaned
That's
up.
a
right
really good point. Yeah. The world is changing fast.
and fast.
And there's a lot of topics. There's a lot of different topics that are being changed that just keep coming up.
Keep
They just
coming
keep coming up.
And it's not going to slow down.
And it's not going to slow down. I mean, right? There's so many, like food.
Yeah.
Food on itself.
Oh,
like
just the topic of food or climate.
yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's politics.
Politics.
All those things. And so be mindful, be aware. Like, are you getting swept up in it always? Be in the eye of the storm.
Mm-hmm.
So when that storm's going everywhere, that you're grounded in the middle. You're like, ooh, okay, I can see 360. I can see what's going on. I get it. And so that's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, ooh, it's storming, but I am grounded right here.
Yeah.
And like, and eventually in the whole process of embodiment and all that, you're so grounded that somebody else can feel secure because you're grounded. That helps somebody else feel secure. Like,
that's true.
Like, ooh, okay. Like, so a lot of people that are grounded and really anchored and doing that, like, dude, we're holding a lot of space for others.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, we're just passing it on and on and on. Keep passing that on. Pay it forward, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I like to look at it as like, oh, it's a fun ride. Even at sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm ready to get off this ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm like, hey, I signed up for it, and I can hold a perspective of like, all this can shift tomorrow. All this could shift any moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, let's see. I'm taking more of an observer standpoint.
Yeah.
Take that perspective more. Just, like, you're driving the car, just become the passenger. And then if you got that down, be in the back seat. Observe everything from back there. And if you could do that, become the car behind it. Become the observer of the observer, observing. Yeah. So far removed from it all, but knowing what's going on. That gives you a buffer to be able to breathe and accept it. And you could accept everything. Be like, oh, it's all
that'll shift your perspective.
Yeah.
That'll definitely shift your
You
perspective.
won't even judge stuff. You just go like, oh, life is happening.
Right.
Because it's always, if we say this is the worst time ever, man, you tell that to people that were getting persecuted or there's been some times like, hey, we have it pretty easy, actually.
Yeah.
We don't have somebody coming in and just killing us off or something, like.
Yeah. There's no
here in the Western
gangs and horses
rolling
up and just killing all the men
and taking off, like, all that, like,
right.
No, we're like,
right, or
my
we
internet's slow.
We don't have a war tomorrow. We have to fight with swords.
Yeah, imagine,
and like thousands of us.
Instead, we're like, my Wi-Fi is slow.
Right. right. Or food.
Yeah.
Food is, I mean, as much as it's a thing now, and like finding good, clean food.
Yeah.
As much as that's a thing, there's food now.
Yeah, we're not going through famines here.
Yeah.
At least, and I'm speaking about us in the Western,
well, yeah, here.
privileged We're all privileged
There's
here.
so many worlds happening in the world at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dimensions literally going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and we're witnessing that with like right now the women fighting for their freedom in Iran.
Right.
Like, wow, that's a whole like they're actually going through that, and I'm like, wow, that's a whole nother world going on, a whole different reality.
Yeah, that happened here.
Yeah.
Same thing happened here. Look
Yeah.
where we
So
are now.
so what I'm saying is like this time is relevant to us.
Mhm.
It feels heavy to us because we are in it.
Yeah. This time and place.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
time and place, and I don't I do hold, you know, being in the jungle, it's a big teacher. Just go out to the jungle and just observe how it happens. Life continues, and there things are. A tree collapses, it becomes fertilizer for the next
Right.
tree. An animal consumes that one, another one's going to consume that one. Like it's life and death, no
Mhm.
judgment. It's not good or evil.
Yeah.
It's life happening.
Solar systems collapse. and
All
create
this
a
stuff.
new- Yeah.
Completely.
Speaking about life continues.
Mhm.
Life outside of Earth.
Oh, ooh. So going from this micro to the macro,
Yeah.
as you can see, I would say, I mean, I look at it as, look, within us, we have cells.
Mhm.
We even have bacteria. We have a universe within us
Right.
already. I'm talking about more cells than probably stars, and you know, and then you span out just a little bit, and we're like humans on the planet,
Right.
you know, and then span out a little bit further. I sometimes think that I'm like, man, we're like cells of the universe.
Yeah.
What if we're just the cells, or bacteria? I don't know,
Yeah.
or viruses.
Yes.
Or virus, but I would like to say we're the
Mhm.
cells
Yeah. Inside of a giant.
inside of something beyond us. Like how would we even know? You know, I don't know. The ant in his little ant farm is like, they're
Yeah.
just doing their world. Is he thinking about like the solar system? No.
He's not even thinking about the other side of the street.
Yeah. But we, once again, we are made in the image of God. And by that, I mean that we have the capacity to expand our, like, think outside of ourselves, like
Mhm.
beyond, like, you know, like, and that doesn't make us any greater though, you know, because like, hey, uh, in the jungle, the jaguar, he's just being a jaguar.
Right.
He's not even saying like, look, I'm the jaguar, I'm the strongest animal here.
Right.
No, he just eats, sleeps, mates, does what he's got to do,
Mhm.
survive. And so I'm like, who's more conscious actually? You know, if we paint it that way, because I'm like, damn, we got everything, but we're killing ourselves. We can't eat right. We got all these issues, and yet nature is functioning nice in harmony. And so somewhere in there, we've fallen out of harmony, and so I look at it as like, well, if we could see that we're a tiny minuscule, I'm like, man, there's something even bigger on the scope that I can't even fathom. But I feel that if we could understand that, yeah, there's like even cells and bacteria, so
Right.
tiny, universes within universes within universes. I'm like, that's just an example of the infinite.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, there's, as for like, it's just a different level of consciousness,
Right.
maybe, you know, like it's not as dense maybe as us here in the physical. Maybe it's more of a actual consciousness.
What about the visitors?
I would say it's, you know, I once had this thought of like, I'm like, what if it's us in our future self,
Yeah.
beyond our physical realm? Because look how limiting the physical is. I mean, it's pretty limiting,
Right.
you know. And if we're already able to go beyond this physical realm, in order to get to, let's say, if I draw a line like 1D, then I cross
Right.
2D, then I give it another dimension, 3D, then I give it time, add time to it, 4D, then I go, you know, but I can't imagine 5D from 2D.
Right.
But when I'm in 5D, I know what 2D is because I've gone through it. So therefore, I'm like, well, what if these other beings have already gone through this cycle of going through a being, a physical? Well, they can connect back to us. I mean, and so we carry a part because it's still us. We also very cyclical even. There's no ending to it. So if they've gone through this cycle, that means they carry the same as us,
Right.
consciousness wise, so they can kind of come back if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But why would they want to come back to this? Like, why would you want to revisit this? What if I said like, hey, do you want to go back to being, I don't know, a rock? You know, I mean,
Right.
it is kind of appealing.
Or maybe it's like, let's just go on a ride.
Yeah, or let's just go right, come on.
Let's go on a ride.
But we carry something that we can like,
Multi-dimensional.
we can kind of imagine like we have some gift where like, I mean, like we've been able to figure out a lot of stuff like beyond like, even our ancestors knew that there was like stars behind planets, and they didn't have telescopes or, you know, how do they do that? The Mayans, like they knew cosmology more than beyond what we even knew already. So I'm like, they carried already information. Maybe that was just passed back, and it's just been cyclical. Like some future beings, maybe it's future beings. You know, we call them aliens, whatever UFO, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think there's something that is maybe, or just something in a whole nother dimension. That's we like to think of things as like, well, would it be like, we compare it to us?
Right.
Would it be like this? No. What if it's just a little flying cell?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's a being,
Right.
you know. But does it look like this? No.
Right, because this is here.
Yeah. What if it's just, or it's like, you know, let's say there's a ghost in the room.
Right.
There's a spirit in the room. Well, if we're kind of tuned in, you know, there's somebody. Oh, I feel something. I feel like there's something here. But the being is like here messing with all the electronics. It actually kind of knows that we're here, but we're not sure. So it's like two different beings on the same plane, two different dimensions within the same plane.
Yeah.
So I think like, hey, maybe there is like they can come. Hopefully, like, you know, like not playing the victim of like help us and save us, but damn, it'd be nice if you just had disclosure and you just came and just helped us out a little bit, please. Just throw us a bone, please.
Be a good time right now.
Right now, just show yourself and just tell us the truth, please.
Yeah. Talk about shifting the world again.
Yeah, what would happen then?
Yeah, that would shift the world.
Once again, like just even like we were saying, like pandemic shifted, like just, turn that way.
Yeah,
that would just be another like, I don't know, conscious evolution. Like, whoa, we're not the biggest, we're not the most advanced thing out here.
Right. I used to think that UFOs or aliens or whatnot. Yeah, especially if you look at some images from like Egyptian times, and like you can see like, what is it? They call them ancient astronauts, where like they look like they're in suits, and it's like, yeah, maybe we've figured out some technology in the future.
So what if it's like literally they look like astronauts in suits? So like us, that we can right now be an astronaut. Right. What if like us time traveling back to the ancestors to those days?
Exactly.
Same as aliens visiting us, but they're just in a different form now.
Exactly.
You know, so it's still continuous, you know, in the present time, but we're visiting way back. So somehow I'm like, okay, I can see the timeline where, if something is visiting, they have a connection. Maybe they're just an evolved version.
Right.
Like, yo, we've been through it. Here's some tips. Like, come back and just give us the tips, bro.
Yeah.
Just throw some tips out.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys, stop fighting about this.
Right.
You know, like.
Hence, it's a good time right now.
It's a good time. We need it.